Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Hokage, I Legend, Eyes of My God. Chapter 91. I'm convinced. Until the song ended, Yusuke didn't say another word. It's like chasing a girl, you can't be too direct. Leave her time to think independently, and she will have all kinds of weird reveries on her own. The more she thinks about it, the more space you occupy in her heart. How about this song? Not bad. Yakushi Nanoyu obviously hasn't completely decided which side to lean towards, and his smile at this time is still a bit far-fetched. Then let's play it again first and continue to get familiar with it. There are still many difficulties in this song. Yusuke raised his eyebrows and pressed the Chinlai switch again. The music started again. Yakushi Nanoyu originally thought that this song would continue like this until it ends. But just when the chorus was about to begin, Yakushi lowered his head, looked at Yusuke's hand, and placed a piece of paper in front of him. How about following me? Yusuke directly interrupted Yakushi Nanoyu's thoughts, and before the song ended, he brought the topic back to the right track he wanted. You yourself came from the root. You know what the root's intention was in putting you here. Do you dare to say now that you can put down everything in the orphanage and stand on the opposite side of this orphanage? Even if you don't want to admit it, you have to admit that you have regarded this place as your home, and the children and serious staff outside the house as your family. Since you have formed a bond, you are no longer the wandering witch you were before. So, do you want to hang out with me? Yakushi Nanoyu said nothing, nodded or shook his head. Instead, he asked Yusuke a question first. Since when did you know my identity? I knew from the beginning that I called you here just to discuss Danzo. Danzo sent you to me just to spy on my intelligence, so I asked you to come over and simply asked you to sing, never giving you too many opportunities to get in touch with me. Of course, I knew from the beginning that you are actually a good person, otherwise I wouldn't want you. Yusuke shrugged and showed no pressure to explore Yakushi Nono's identity and personality. After the song ended, people outside the room heard that Yusuke really started discussing the new song with Yakushi Nunoyu. In fact, your vocal range will be a little uncomfortable with the middle part, but only the one just now is the most suitable. That's what Yusuke said, but Yusuke's hands didn't stop. On the piece of paper just now, start writing new content. How about it? Want to take down Danzo with me? Yakushi Nanoyu is indeed professionally trained, and is quite skilled in Yusuke's method of exchanging information. While answering Yusuke's words, he wrote the content on the paper. Are you really not afraid that I will pretend to agree and then turn around and tell Danzo? I'm pretty good at judging people. What if I actually did it? I don't mind going straight to kill Danzo. Although it would be a little less fun, it would save me too many daily dreams. After Yusuke finished writing this paragraph, Yakushi Nanoyu did not take action yet. After a long while, he finally wrote his answer on the paper. You do have a good eye for people. Yusuke and Yakushi Nanoyu chatted for a while, until the sound of Kushina and children making noise appeared outside the house, and then he and Yakushi Nanoyu went out together. Yakushi Nunoyu smiled and walked towards Kushina, who was playing with the children, but was stopped by Fugaku halfway. Are you Yakushi Nono-sama? Fugaku's voice was slightly trembling. Yakushi Nanoyu himself was surprised, but he nodded and replied, I am indeed Yakushi Nanoyu. Master Yakushi, I really like your song. Can you sign it for me? Sure. Fugaku had just taken out a notebook. Before Yakushi Nunoyu signed it, he realized something and immediately took out 2 more notebooks. He asked shyly, 2, okay. Seeing his posture, Yusuke almost instantly understood why Fugaku was so coy. This is obviously what Uchiha Makoto wants. In fact, Yusuke is not the only one who eats melon. Yusuke tilted his head and saw Minato next to him, as well as the expressions of Kushina, who had sat next to Minato at some point. It was almost exactly the same as when I was in school, when the teacher named a boy and then a girl, and the two happened to be a couple. Yakushi Nunoyu agreed directly, took the book from Fugaku, and signed his name one by one. Is there anything else you want to sign? Can you sign this for me with the lyrics of Blue Bird? This one has the lyrics of Empty Heart. Yakushi did as he was told, and after signing, he returned each of the small notebooks for the coming year to Fugaku. Thanks. Fugaku took the 2 notebooks and bowed to Yakushi. Although it was indeed the first time that he met these two people in reality, Yusuke still called these two people by their names. Hyuga Hiyashi and Hyuga Hazashi. The future head of the Hyuga family and the head of the branch house. As for why, Yusuke can recognize him at a glance, mainly because his white eyes are so recognizable. The two Hyuga brothers ignored the others and walked directly to Fugaku's side. What is this for? Yusuke looked at these children with a little curiosity. Suddenly there was someone around him, and Fugaku subconsciously moved the notebook in his hand away from the intruder. Do you also like Yakushi no Sama? After hearing this, Fugaku raised his head and looked at the person next to him. When he tilted his head, he saw the two pairs. They were obviously pure white, but they made him feel hot inexplicably. Yes, I also like Yakushi no Sama's songs. Which one is your favorite? Bluebird. Fugaku said the answer in his heart without any hesitation. I also like the Bluebird the best. Hyuga Hiyashi hugged Fugaku's shoulders and started shaking, as if he wanted to throw himself into Fugaku's arms and cry. No, why do you young masters from big families like Bluebird so much? How unfree are you yourself that you yearn for freedom so much? Oh, Hyuga's family, that's okay. The two children of the Hyuga family were completely immersed in the communication with Fugaku. It wasn't until someone came to ask them to eat that they calmed down a little. It was Yusuke who made him laugh inexplicably. The real person is right next to you. Instead of looking at the real person, you are immersed in the discussion with people who are also fans. While eating, Yusuke also found that the two children of Hyuga's family were secretly looking at him from time to time. After eating, when a group of people were eating outside, Yusuke clearly heard that Hyuga Hiyashi pulled Fugaku and asked about his situation. He is our 3 guide Jonin, Mikami Yusuke. Mentoring Jonin. This answer was somewhat vague and exceeded the expectations of the two Hyuga children. It's a rainy day for big kids, and you have nothing to do. Yusuke also came to interest you, intending to amuse these two little guys. I'm also the publisher of your favorite Bluebird. Publisher. The doubts of the two Hyuga brothers are rising. No, 1 second you were a mentor Jonin, how come you are now a publisher? No matter how you think about these two things, you can't think of them going anywhere, right? Two pairs of big white eyes were awkward for a moment, staring at Yusuke with full doubts. PFF'd. Finally, it was Yakushi no who couldn't stand these two pairs of cute big eyes and couldn't hold back his laughter. Okay, stop teasing them. The songs you heard were actually composed by Mr. Yusuke. I am only responsible for singing. Mr. Yusuke is responsible for other things. Ouch. Hyuga Hiyashi nodded in understanding, and then reacted suddenly. Then, did you write the lyrics to Bluebird? So be it. Yusuke's head. Yusuke himself can't tell clearly whether he is nodding his head up and down, or shaking his head left and right. Like a head. Sorry, Mizuno Yoshiki. You can't just say directly that I'm not the author, I'm just a porter of Hokage, right? Then can you sign it for me and include the lyrics of Bluebird? Hyuga Hiyashi took out a notebook that was almost identical to Fugaku's just now and asked Yusuke. Sure. After Yusuke finished signing, Hyuga Hiyashi put Hyuga Hazashi's in front of Yusuke. Alright. After returning the book to Hyuga Hazashi, Yusuke looked at Hyuga Hiyashi who was admiring the signature with joy and asked proactively. Then can I ask you a question? Of course. Hyuga Hiyashi broke away from his joy and nodded in agreement. Why do you like Bluebird? When people explain their own behavior, it is not that easy to express their reasons in words. And Hyuga Hiyashi was also lost in his own thoughts. I feel a resonance in this song. So what exactly is the resonance? As soon as Hyuga Hiyashi answered, Yusuke put a new question in front of him. Hyuga Hiyashi fell silent again. And the silence this time was much longer than the last time. Yusuke probably had an answer in his mind, but he didn't say it directly. Because this is like telling Jiraiya that but Pingfengyan, what Hyuga Hiyashi needs to do at this time is to realize the resonance he heard in the Bluebird. Because this song is about his younger brother. The Hyuga clan also possesses the top pupil technique, Byakugan. Ultimately, it is a pupil technique originated from the Otsutsuki clan. But whether it is the real ninja world or the strength shown in anime, The Hyuga clan is far inferior to the Sharingan of the Uchiha clan. The reason for this is indispensable to the rules of the Hyuga clan. Zong family branch house system. The Hyuga clan is divided into clan houses and branch houses. Branch houses' white eyes are bound by a curse mark. Death or being taken away will trigger the curse mark engraved on the forehead. Caged bird. Caged bird automatically destroys its brain and eyes, and still has the curse mark after being resurrected by impure world reincarnation. So caged bird is a kind of gangrene that will follow you even if you die. Caged bird will also add an additional 360 degrees viewing angle to the original white eye, with a 1 degree visual blind spot extending from the first thoracic vertebra to the rear. Back to Hyuga Heihachi. Hyuga Heihachi is the head of the branch house of this generation, and his younger brother, Hyuga Hazashi, is the head of the branch house of this generation. The reason why he resonated with this song. That's because he heard his brother in the song. A bluebird who is bound by a caged bird and a family that has pervert faith in inheritance but yearns for the blue sky. However, Yusuke doesn't intend to bring this matter out now. After touching the heads of Hyuga Heihachi and Hyuga Hazashi, Yusuke said to the 5 children, "Okay, if you have enough rest, let's go to work." The 2 little guys from the Hyuga family originally came to help with the idea of helping the orphanage and Yakushi Nunoyu. So I came here to help. With the help of these 2 people, Minato and the 3 finally successfully completed the picking task before the sun set. After the mission is completed, you still have to return to the mission office to hand in the mission. Congratulations, you have successfully completed the first mission of your ninja career. How do you feel? Feel good. The 3 children chattered about today's tasks. What do you want to eat tonight? When Yusuke asked this question, he didn't expect that the first thing he thought of was Ichiraku ramen. In fact, Yusuke has always wanted to eat Ichiraku ramen. But now Uncle Ichiraku, he is probably about the same age as Nawaki. By the way, Nawaki, after Yusuke thought about Nawaki, he said to the 3 people, "If you want to take the next Chunin exam, it seems that you can take it with Nawaki." Minato and Kushina are both quite familiar with Nawaki, so they just expressed simple joy about this matter. On the other hand, Fugaku's eyes were reflecting light from somewhere, and there were more highlights. Which Konoha barrier is it, Nawaki? The person I should be talking to you is. Yusuke nodded lightly. Speaking of which, it's time for Nawaki to take the exam. He obviously has a special title, but now he is still a genin. But Konoha's genin is obviously the most powerful. Should he persuade Nawaki not to take the exam? Wow, Nawaki eh? After Fugaku chattered for a while, Yusuke brought the conversation back on track. Okay, what do you want for dinner? How about ramen? Minato suggested casually. I want to eat the food cooked by my eldest brother. How about I make you ramen? Okay. In Angel's Gift, Fugaku finally entered the Angel's Gift for the first time in his life. And understand what Minato and Kushina call the amazing summer dream melancholy coral sparkling tea. Moreover, Fugaku was also impressed by Yusuke's cooking. Can I come here to eat more often in the future? Of course, there's nothing wrong with that. Yusuke took a sip, and every time he tasted the wine, he would experience a different taste of the wine, and then said, "I am your guide no matter what, Jonin, so you can come as often as you want. Is it okay to bring someone else? I need 2 autographs, and now I'm asking myself if I can bring someone else a gift from the angel. How many times has Uchiha Makoto popped into your head this day?" But, according to Uchiha Fugaku's appearance, if he doesn't rely on his status as the young clan leader, Yusuke feels that this level of infatuation is still a plus in the eyes of girls. Thinking of this, Yusuke also became interested and prepared to tease Fugaku. Of course, after all, my place is a shop. Although it is a tavern and it sells some fruit tea, most people don't have the opportunity to eat the food I cook. When Yusuke said this, his addiction to drama began to rise, and his state gradually became exaggerated. Directly added to Fugaku, Hokage may not have a chance. Seeing Fugaku's shocked expression, Tsunade, who was next to Yusuke, wanted to laugh inexplicably. According to Yusuke's character and attitude towards the 3rd generation project, when the 3rd generation project comes, it is really possible that he will not be able to eat the food cooked by Yusuke, and there is a high probability. Fugaku was shocked, while Yusuke himself took a chopstick of food and put it into the bowl of Tsunade, who was holding back his laughter and felt a little uncomfortable. Then, speaking slowly and unhurriedly, as if he were talking about a trivial matter, he slowly said something that made Fugaku's head smoke. The girl I met at the barbecue restaurant that day. Although the map of Yan Kingdom is a bit short, this does not prevent this sentence from directly destroying Fugaku's sanity. It looks like it is. After a long moment of silence, Fugaku replied in a voice smaller than that of a mosquito, well. After Fugaku finished answering, he lowered his head and looked at his knees. But after he finished speaking, the sound from Yusuke showed that Yusuke clearly heard his answer. Having reached this point, Yusuke chose to continue teasing. My name is Makoto, Uchiha Makoto, right? Anyway, Yusuke had already heard it, and Fugaku just chose to start swinging. At this time, Fugaku successfully realized a truth. As long as I open up, any problem will not be a problem. I think that girl also likes you. Do you want to go and confess your feelings directly? You said, Makoto also likes me. When we had dinner last time, I saw that you kept peeking at others, and she also kept peeking at you. Just peeking. Then let Kushina tell you. Although Kushina hasn't been in love yet, girls definitely understand girls' thoughts better. Kushina, do you think Makoto likes Fugaku? Kushina actually lowered her head, thought seriously for a while, nodded and replied, it seems really interesting. If you like her, just confess it boldly. Maybe you can confirm the relationship faster than the two people next to you. Yusuke raised an eyebrow and glanced sideways at Minato and Kushina next to him. But these two men, directly transformed into the Fugaku a minute ago, both lowered their heads. No, Kushina, when you picked me up and threw me, wasn't I very violent? Why do you get so distracted when this kind of situation comes up? Nervously, I almost want to take back your title of Konoha's richest man. Okay, that's almost it. Look how scared these three kids are. Tsunade didn't say anything, as these children were still too young. Come on, this is in the ninja world, Naruto and Sasuke, at their age, both of them are kissing each other, right? Boy, it's better to be more direct. Look at me chasing Tsunade, so be more confident. I believe you'll be fine. Yusuke's words were met with a blank look from Tsunade, and thoughtful looks from Fugaku and Minato. After Fugaku finished eating, he took the initiative to say goodbye. I don't know if I simply went home or went to find Uchiha Makoto. Minato and Kushina hang out together. But none of this matters. The important thing is that after these people left, Yusuke and Tsunade could finally live in a world of two. It was just a topic for two people to chat about, which was a bit strange. Or maybe Tsunade just thinks Yusuke is weird. You said that Kushina and Makoto have a good relationship, and Minato and Fugaku have a good relationship. These two families will definitely have frequent contacts in the future, right? Tsunade knew that Yusuke still had something to say, so he asked, so? What do you think about helping them book a baby wedding? It doesn't seem impossible, but what if these two families give birth to boys or girls in the future? Then we'll talk about it then. Tsunade was speechless. According to common sense, shouldn't it be said to be invalid at this time? What do you mean when the time comes? Tsunade glanced at Yusuke and saw that Yusuke had a smirk on his face and didn't know what he was thinking, so Tsunade took the initiative to change the topic. Speaking of which, it's time for Nawaki to find a girlfriend. He will probably come back next time for the Chunin exam. How about helping him arrange a few blind dates? Although, Yusuke still wants to see Nawakix's CP. But to be honest, there is still a slight age gap between the two people. Even though Nawaki still looks very small, the baby fat has not yet gone away. The kiss that should be given should still be given. I think it's okay. Tsunade just nodded and agreed, but Yusuke changed the subject again. So many people have talked about it, so what do you think is a better time for the two of us to get married? Tsunade's face turned slightly red and did not answer Yusuke's question. Look, I don't let others call me master, so no one calls you master. So, how about simply skipping the step of master's wife and jumping directly to a child calling you mother? Yusuke's topic seemed to drift off gradually, but in the end, he got back to the topic. How about waiting until Orochimaru becomes the Hokage? Then, Let the Hokage be the witness. It should be very interesting. Tsunade said softly, yes. Although the voice was small, Yusuke could hear the firmness in it. Father. As soon as Fugaku entered the house, he saw his father, who had been waiting for him for a long time, sitting opposite the door, obviously waiting for him. Eaten dinner yet? Have eaten. Fugaku nodded in agreement and sat down in front of his father. When he sat down, Fugaku had already thought about why his father was waiting for him. Moreover, the first paragraph of the Uchiha clan leader directly confirmed Fugaku's guess. What did you do today? Going on a mission. Fugaku himself knew that some uncomfortable things had happened between Yusuke and his family, so his father would naturally care about Yusuke. Regarding what happened today, Fugaku naturally planned to tell everything. After all, what happened today is normal and nothing can be stopped. At most, I was a little hesitant about the last dinner of the day. However, Fugaku had just said a few words when Fugaku was ruthlessly interrupted. You just said, who did you meet at the orphanage? Meet Hyuga Hiyashi, and Hyuga Hazashi. The Hyuga family, the future clan family and the head of the branch house, these two identities, the Uchiha clan chief has to pay attention to. The Uchiha family is the first family in the ninja world. In this regard, every Uchiha person has enough confidence. As for the Hyuga family, they really don't care that much. But now the two young family heads deserve a little attention. What are the two of them doing? He does the same thing as us. As for the reason, he is also a fan of Yakushi no. Fugaku spread his hands, indicating that there was nothing wrong with this matter. This reason also convinced the Uchiha clan leader. Go on. By the way, after dinner, Yusuke Mikami asked Hyuga Hiyashi a question. Yusuke's question made Fugaku very concerned, so Fugaku deliberately asked this question. Let me just say, there is definitely something wrong with this level of chance encounter. And the problem may lie within this problem. He asked Hyuga Hiyashi why he liked the song Blue Bird. Hyuga Hiyashi said that it had a resonance, but he didn't answer what the resonance was. When Fugaku thought about this problem, he couldn't help but fall into deep thinking, and started to scratch his hair unconsciously. The song, Blue Bird, was heard by the Uchiha clan leader himself. When he thought of the situation at the Hyuga family, even he himself had an answer to this question. However, this kind of problem is easy for adults to think about. But for children of Fugaku and Hyuga Hiyashi's age, it is really a problem. Regarding this question, Chief Uchiha did not intend to tell Fugaku his answer. Okay, let's put this issue aside for now. Facts have proved that sometimes, always thinking that the boat will straighten out when it reaches the bridge will only make you more and more into the torture of anxious waiting. This child, who was doing well before, why is he silent now? If Fugaku knew what his father was thinking, he would definitely complain harshly. How many times have you interrupted, don't you remember? In the end, Fugaku chose to tell what happened at dinner today. I think what Yusuke said is right. If you like her, go for it boldly. I'm also somewhat impressed by that little girl Makoto. You have to work hard. Yes, father. Fugaku nodded heavily, with joy on his face. He did not expect that his father would agree with Yusuke's statement so much. By the way, where's the Jinchuriki girl? What's the problem? No, except for being particularly good at fighting. Especially good at fighting. Fugaku then realized that he had not told the story about how he and others snatched the bell on the first day, so he hurriedly told his father the story. Also, Kushina seems to have been taught by Yusuke and another person named Might Die. So strong, who is this Might Die? Looks like a genin. Genin. Tonight, the Uchiha clan became a little restless because of the blaring leader of the clan. In fact, the Hokage office is not much better. And the reason for this situation? Who else could it be but Danzo? Hiruzen, what exactly do you think? Danzo slammed the table and shouted directly at Sarutobi Hiruzen and asked, his tone full of anger. What is it that makes you so angry? You put Jinchuriki into the same team as Uchiha Fugaku. What on earth were you thinking? If you think you can't control Jinchuriki, then you might as well put Jinchuriki under my control. If you have the ability, go ahead. Anyway, now Jinchuriki is equivalent to an ordinary civilian. If you want to arrest him, just go and arrest him. It's not like you, Danzo, don't have that ability. Danzo feels that when he talks to third generation now, he has the illusion that he is talking to Yusuke. Actually, it's true. When third generation seemed to be fine, he thought about it blindly and successfully figured out the essence of Yusuke's way of speaking. Weird and strange. And it seems that this way of speaking is really useful for Danzo. In the past, third generation would have been a headache. But now, Danzo, you are behind the version. Danzo became even more angry when he thought of Yusuke. I am not a treacherous person, I promised. What do you mean? Of course I do it for their own good. Anyway, there was no one around, so Sarutobi Hiruzen just said what he was thinking. Danzo, I'm the Hokage. Then I wish your plan goes well. Before going out, Danzo paused, feeling that something was missing. Finally, he turned around and left a message for third generation. Be careful Yusuke Mikami, otherwise you will regret it. After saying that, Danzo left directly, leaving only third generation in the room. Third generation knows very well that if they really want to hold Nine Tails in their hands, Yusuke will be their inevitable obstacle. But what he didn't know was that in Yusuke's eyes, the third generation project was an indispensable obstacle to his own success in Danzo. Yusuke's goal from the beginning was to get under third generation's control. Since starting to mentor Jonin, Yusuke's life has become regular again. Every day he was woken up by three little ones blocking the door. After asking the three little ones to have breakfast, he was pushed out of the house by Tsunade. Then every day is to perform some tasks such as catching cats. When Kushina couldn't bear it anymore and started to complain, a task was placed in front of Yusuke. Came back. Yusuke had finished cooking and was originally waiting for Tsunade to come back. In fact, not only Yusuke didn't move his chopsticks, but the three little ones next to him were also looking at the dishes on the table eagerly. But as soon as Tsunade came back, Yusuke originally wanted to show off his affection, but as soon as Tsunade came up, he stuffed a scroll directly into Yusuke's open arms. The old man asked me to bring it to you. After Yusuke sat down, he started to read by himself, and Kushina and others were all staring at the scroll in Yusuke's hand. They still recognize the mission scroll. Now that the mission scroll is given to Yusuke, it is equivalent to giving the mission scroll to their 7th team. Congratulations, you have received your first mission out of the village today. Where to go, where to go? When they heard that there was a mission to leave the village, the three little ones instantly became interested. Here you go, see for yourselves. Yusuke directly placed the scroll in front of several people, allowing the three little ones to read it themselves. Wow, I'm going to Rain Shinobi. These three people have basically never left Konoha because of their status issues. Even if it's outside the scope of Konoha village, it's not too far away. Kushina, who comes from the kingdom of Whirlpool, can even be regarded as the only person who has seen the scenery of different countries. This mission probably means that on the way from Konoha to Rain Shinobi to transport supplies, a group of bandits recently appeared, and Yusuke needs to lead the 7th team to clear them out. The current Rain Shinobi battlefield is indeed still being fought. But the scale of the conflict has plummeted since Yusuke came back, and now there's just a bunch of petty fights left. Now such a mission has appeared again. And it was a mission that only came up after he became the mentor of Jonin. Looking at the three problem boys in front of him, each of whom looked excited, Yusuke felt more and more that this incident was full of evil and weirdness. But for a while, Yusuke really couldn't guess what the third generation project actually wanted to do. As for saying that this is really just a very ordinary task, Yusuke 99% doesn't believe it. After all, Yusuke has never let go of his vigilance since third generation asked him to lead such a team. Of course, being vigilant is also vigilant against the purpose of third generation. For the three Kushinas, Yusuke naturally has real feelings for them. Okay, stop looking and eat first. Good. As for eating, it was obvious that the excitement of the three Kushinas could not be suppressed. Yusuke didn't seem to care much, but the topic of conversation was all about this matter. Just in time, if possible, I will take you to meet your original teacher, Jiraiya. After all, both Kushina and Minato knew about Jiraiya's failure to come back, so Yusuke also told Kushina and the other three about this matter. Speaking of going to Rain Shinobi's battlefield, Yusuke's first thought was of course Jiraiya and the three little Rain Shinobi. If there is no big problem, then you can really go and take a look. Just be afraid, there is a big problem. Is it really possible? Tsunade also has a say in this topic. After all, I could tell at the time that Yusuke cared about the 3 children, which also made Tsunade favor the 3 children. Let me tell you quietly, in fact, Jiraiya also brought a few children for training, 2 boys and 1 girl. When Kushina heard this, her desire to win suddenly increased. Then do you think we can defeat them? It should work. Yusuke deliberately didn't say too much and kept his words to himself. Kushina was also tricked on the spot. Then let's train on the road. Then when the time comes, let's find an opportunity for you and the people Jiraiya is teaching now to rub it in. Okay. During the meal, Yusuke's topic never strayed from the matter of going to Rain Shinobi. Although the corners of his mouth had been raised just now, Yusuke felt a very uncoordinated feeling in his heart. By the way, when you go, remember to bring something for me to Konan. Okay, I get it. Don't you, sir, know what the configuration of my team is? The young-tailed beast in the first family in Konoha, the first family in the ninja world. No matter how you arrange the tasks, you will not arrange a task for me to leave the village, right? That's not to say that people like Kushina should be completely restricted within the confines of Konoha. Yusuke naturally hopes that they can see more of the outside world. But this incident, coupled with the background of the 3rd-generation purpose, made this trip impure. Or to put it more seriously, it has become dangerous. However, Yusuke's worry is actually more about the conspiracy. As for strength, Yusuke is really not weak at all. There is always a solution to a problem. Now, I can say that I am alone in the ninja world, and there is nothing wrong with me. You will protect the people you want to protect. Just like what Yakushi Nanoyu said, he doesn't kill Danzo directly just to play games with others within the rules set by others. Winning others in this way gives you a greater sense of accomplishment than simply turning over the table. After having enough wine and food, everyone went back to their respective homes to find their respective mothers. The tavern was open for a while, and Yusuke closed the door on the grounds that he had to go out tomorrow. Yusuke himself is a little confused about what the 3rd-generation project is trying to do. Just because one person can't think of it doesn't mean that multiple people can't think of it either. I have to go out. Be safe. I want to find someone, but I can't go directly to the person I want to find. After telling Tsunade, Yusuke is a silky little combo of clone technique and transformation technique. This set of silky little combos, every time Yusuke uses it, there will be one. The one he is using is Goku's 72 transformations. Under the cover of the moonlight, Yusuke successfully flew to his destination. Undoing the transformation technique, Yusuke revealed his form. Under the cover of the moonlight, Yusuke saw Orochimaru sitting under the window, lowering his head and reading a book. Not to mention, under the illumination of the moonlight and lights, Orochimaru's body really has an extraterrestrial aura. Such a temperament has never appeared in Orochimaru before. If I have to say, he probably has a little more fairy energy than Orochimaru in Incombustible Legend. Yes, the person Yusuke is looking for is Orochimaru. After all, Orochimaru can be regarded as the intellectual ceiling in the Hokage series. So if you want to ask whose opinion, it's natural to ask Orochimaru's opinion. Good evening. You just stay at home and read books all day long. If you go out more, you might be able to discover more new things. Everything about Konoha is too familiar to me. In other words, everything in Konoha has not changed for too long. Yusuke really doesn't like wearing clothes with oversized cuffs like the ones Orochimaru is wearing now, but this doesn't stop Yusuke from admiring them. For example, Orochimaru now has his long hair hanging down naturally, holding a book, and wearing it as simply as a bathrobe. The neckline that should have been tied has turned into a deep V, exposing his chest muscles and part of his abdominal muscles. Yes, a girl who likes this hexagram will fall deeply into love with just one look. That's what people like Orochimaru are like. One thought becomes a devil, one thought becomes a Buddha. This sentence is very suitable to describe a person like Orochimaru. Looking at this Orochimaru, Yusuke suddenly thought of a joke. It used to be, why Min also didn't sleep, now it's, Orochimaru didn't sleep either. Yusuke sat directly opposite Orochimaru, and Orochimaru also put down the book in his hand. How do you see it? There is a lot of content in it, and I still need to test it myself. Before reading these books, I never thought that some seemingly inconspicuous things actually contain infinite possibilities. Yusuke nodded after hearing this. After I came into contact with the alchemy mastered by Albedo for the first time, I was deeply shocked by the countless possibilities contained in alchemy. Drink. Sure. Yusuke casually took out a bottle of wine, put it on the table, and poured another glass for each person. What do you want from me? I really can't hide it from you. What you are now is not your most common state. Okay, something is indeed wrong. Anyway, the topic was opened, and Yusuke directly told Orochimaru what happened recently. After Orochimaru listened, he pondered for a while, and then suddenly said to Yusuke, "Why don't you put this matter back?" Fall forward. Yusuke was stunned. Back up, you take over the 7th shift and start. A person with Uchiha Fugaku's status will most likely not enter a class with this model. This is basically a matter of convention. But he came in anyway. So, from that moment on, Sarutobi Hiruzen's target was me. Yusuke frowned slightly. Then what's the point of doing this? To add to your class, a genius who graduated first, a tailed beast Jinchuriki, plus a young head of the first family in the ninja world. I have thought about this, and I also know that because of the identities of these 3 children, there will definitely be a lot of interceptions and killings on the way to the mission, but I always feel that after this interception there's more influence. This was what Yusuke couldn't understand the most, and Orochimaru was silent for a while. It does have an impact. Orochimaru stretched out his finger and pointed at Yusuke, and you are the one who is affected. You said, if Kushina and the other 2 couldn't handle the interceptions and killings all over the place, would you take action or not? Of course I'll take action. Yusuke's first reaction was of course to take action. Kushina and the other 2 couldn't hold it back, and if she didn't take action, it would be a disaster for her to face the enemy. In this situation, in order to save the 3 people, she would definitely take action. But halfway through his words, Yusuke himself stopped talking. Instead, he began to look thoughtful. After a while, Yusuke understood. This is no different from the Kingdom of Whirlpool and the Kingdom of Rain. The country of Whirlpool was far away from Konoha, and the country of Rain was on the battlefield at that time, so the situation was complicated. He can show his strength unscrupulously. But this time is different. This time, although I have left Konoha, in essence, this is still the purpose of the 3rd generation. This is not Yusuke's completely autonomous action. This is an order, which means that Yusuke has to do it. The purpose of 3rd generation is to let yourself use your true strength. Because he just needs to take action and use his hidden power. Then it means that he will be forced to stand in front of the stage. Let's not talk about whether 3rd generation will discover their identity as an Arataki faction, or even this identity is somewhat unimportant. The important thing is that your own existence will be put on the table. I will be forced to be exposed to the 3rd generation's purpose. From then on, I can only fight against the 3rd generation's purpose within the rules of the 3rd generation. I have no way to explain why the Senshin ninja who poached Sharingan by myself has the ultimate power. This is also the ultimate goal of the 3rd generation. The purpose is yourself. In this case, even if I am used to opening a clone technique and using a clone to act as the mysterious man, it will not work now. Doing so will only arouse deeper suspicion. This is a perfect trap. After understanding this, Yusuke felt a little chilled in his heart. The more he thought about it, the deeper Yusuke's frown deepened. What's wrong? You want me to help you out? Orochimaru raised his eyebrows and directly stated what Yusuke was thinking. But before Yusuke could make any move, Orochimaru's words came again. I can't do it. Just because you can think of me doesn't mean that my dear teacher can't think of me. And so it is. In the past few days since he has been on a mission, Orochimaru will most likely be targeted by the 3rd generation for various reasons. But now in this situation, one has to either expose one's own strength according to the 3rd generation's purpose. Even if he refuses this mission, in the eyes of the 3rd generation, he is planning to continue hiding it. But that is also in the eyes of the 3rd generation project. Or, you need someone outside this game to help you break the game. It is basically impossible in Konoha. There is a high probability that if you find one by yourself, you will be taken away by the third generation project. Even the Uchiha family, who are at odds with the third generation, most likely won't be able to do it. Even if the current Uchiha clan leader finds out about this, he can't do anything. Send a large number of Uchiha ninjas as bodyguards. The third generation is worried that they can't find a way to deal with Uchiha. If there is a large-scale Uchiha ninja movement, then it is necessary to deliver the sword to the third generation's target. Ah, I'm so annoyed. Yusuke no longer maintained his sitting position and lay back directly. This is a dead end. No matter whether you go or not, or whether you make a move, your ending will be to step into the trap prepared by third generation. Orochimaru looked at Yusuke, who was already lying down, with a slight wry smile on his lips. I have never seen Yusuke like this. After looking at it twice more, Orochimaru took out the photo camera Yusuke had given him before and took a picture of Yusuke. Yusuke stood up slightly out of curiosity. Orochimaru, who was looking at the photo, burst into Yusuke's ears like the sound of nature's words. I do have a pretty good candidate here. Who? The next day, in front of Yusuke's house. Usually, Minato and the three of them would stand outside the door when they arrived, waiting for Yusuke to take them on a mission. The same is true today. The only difference is that two of the three little ones today are in extremely high spirits. Are you all ready? After saying goodbye to Tsunade, Yusuke turned to look at the three little ones. Kushina and Minato both had longing smiles on their faces. The expression on Fugaku's face is not that beautiful. Although he is smiling, you can see the far-fetchedness in it at a glance. Ready. Minato and Kushina replied in unison. Ready. Fugaku was a little slow, obviously having something on his mind. In fact, during the discussion with Orochimaru yesterday, Yusuke also realized that Fugaku is also a very important issue. Kushina is the tailed beast Jinchuriki, and this is the person that the third generation project wants to win over. Therefore, people from the third generation project will basically not choose to take action against Kushina. So among the people dispatched by the third generation project, the one with the highest priority is Fugaku. Once Fugaku dies, the Uchiha clan will lose a young family leader and a future genius. And Yusuke will also have a gap with the Uchiha family because of Fugaku's death. And this gap will lie between the Yusuke and Uchiha clans. This will be a major blow to Yusuke's plan to support Orochimaru. The major families still have a say in the position of the Hokage, which is also related to the large number of Jonin in their clan. To be honest, the Uchiha clan leader dared to let Fugaku come. This was considered a way of testing his attitude. If this happens, the Uchiha clan will side with themselves and Orochimaru. And I messed up. Yusuke doesn't think that he will mess up now. Now that everything is ready, let's set off now. I'm leaving. After Yusuke came back from Orochimaru last night, his frown had completely relaxed. After being together for such a long time, Tsunade can naturally tell whether Yusuke is holding on or not. The answer is, not really. And after hearing Orochimaru tell Yusuke how to break the game, Tsunade also expressed a considerable degree of agreement. Be safe. I will. Yusuke waved his hand and took the initiative to follow the pace of the three children. We are fighting dreamers. Fighting dreamers. This song is called Go, a song Yusuke recently released for Yakushi no. Not to mention, it is quite suitable for the current scene. This song is in the original work, and it happens to be the op of the part of Class 7. If in the future, Minato will also lead Class 7, Kakashi will also lead Class 7. So Yusuke feels that he has become the first generation of Class 7 inches inexplicably. Although, the number of Class 7 has been used by others before. But with the size of his team, it is really possible that he was the one who started to be recorded. As for why, in this Japanese-speaking world, it is still okay to mix a lot of English into this song. Even Yusuke doesn't know. Even when he showed it to Yakushi Nanoyu for the first time, Yakushi Nanoyu didn't say there was anything strange about it. Do I sing well? Sounds good. Minato. It's really not bad, but if you ask me this, what else can I say besides saying it sounds nice? And this sentence, he couldn't tell whether it was against his will or not, but it still made the corners of Yusuke's mouth rise a little. From the perspective of the team intercepted by Konoha and the ninjas from other countries who came because of the leaked news, Fugaku is indeed the one that needs to be dealt with first. But Kushina isn't much better. Now that the land of Uzumaki seems to have evaporated from the ninja world, third generation will definitely not be able to find any high-quality, brand-new Jinchuriki for a while. Therefore, Kushina will most likely need to be captured alive. But for ninjas from other villages, killing Kushina means releasing Nine Tails. Although, it is definitely not as good as releasing Nine Tails directly within Konoha to hit Konoha more harshly. But they will definitely not let go of the opportunity to release Nine Tails. If it were placed in a town, it would at least destroy a town and give Konoha a reputation for poor supervision. And this infamy is likely to cause a rift between Konoha and the Land of Fire. Even if no casualties were caused, if Nine Tails was released, whether Nine Tails escaped on the spot or fought back against Konoha, these ninjas from other villages would definitely want to see it. The former can give Konoha a headache in order to recapture Nine Tails. The latter, that could also cause actual losses to Konoha. Anyway, as long as it works, there will be no loss at all. On the contrary, among these people, Minato should have the highest future achievements. Became the most inconspicuous one. It is estimated that even if someone wants to touch Minato, they may simply think that Minato is just an accessory. When she stepped out of Konoha's gate, Kushina's mood instantly became even higher. He ran straight forward for a long distance. Minato, come after me. Minato and Kushina ran in front, while Fugaku still maintained about the same speed as Yusuke, slowly following Yusuke. I can probably guess what your father said to you. Fugaku raised his head and looked at Yusuke. My father told me that this journey will be very dangerous. Not only will we encounter ninjas from other villages, but we may also encounter ninjas from Konoha. It should be said or not, he is worthy of the Uchiha clan. This kind of thing that cannot be put on the table in other homes, just talk about it. Are the village and Uchiha really so incompatible? Yusuke's eyes were full of confusion. And this confusion will continue with Fugaku in the original work. Until death came to him. It's not that the village is incompatible with Uchiha, from beginning to end, it's just that a few people are incompatible with Uchiha. Relax a little. Since I brought you out of the village well, I will naturally bring you all back to the village well. Fugaku doesn't know what happened. Yusuke's words were obviously in a very normal tone, but he felt an inexplicable power from them. By the way, have you confessed your love to Uchiha Makoto? Not yet, however, I mentioned it to my father, and my father also supported me very much. Fugaku originally wanted to express that he dared to say it, but who knew that Yusuke was just a violent person. What's the point of mentioning it to your father? Go mention it to Uchiha Makoto. I'll find Makoto when I get back. But what greeted Fugaku was another violent shock. Don't set a flag for me here. Old man, is this Miliuhe village? In the sunset, Yusuke asked an old man sitting under the big tree at the door. The three little ones following Yusuke now lost the energy they had when they first set off. I usually do a lot of physical training. But simply rushing on the road is not only a test of physical fitness, but also a great drain on the spirit. Although he and the others had rested last night, it was Yusuke who kept vigil, and he didn't let them keep vigil. But even so, none of the three of them had a good rest. And the little energy they had left still made them roll their eyes at Yusuke's behavior. The name of the village is written on the stone tablet next to you, so why are you asking? Ah, what did you say? The old man leaned his ear towards Yusuke, as if he couldn't hear clearly. Yusuke raised his voice a few more decibels. Let me ask, is this Miru a village? What's Miru? Miruhe. What is Liuhe? At this point, Yusuke seemed to have lost interest. He lifted his bent waist and took 2 steps back. Seeing Yusuke move back a little, the old man also moved back again, with his back completely attached to the backrest. Tie me up. Ah, not only the old man himself was stunned, but the 3 Kushinas also looked confused. What is this all about? The initial question of whether it was Miru and the village was confusing enough, but now what does it mean? The old man reacted even faster than the 3 Kushinas. He jumped up from the recliner and ran towards the village with nimble steps. Why are you still standing there? Go chase him, everyone will run away in a moment. Yes, As long as you can't tell that there is something wrong with this, old man, you really don't need to use your own brain. You can just feed it to pigs without any problems. It's so obvious, do you really think I can't see it? People started to run, and the two birds that were pecking on the ground in the square took off directly after the people left. Yusuke, on the other hand, took out a bow and arrow from his backpack leisurely and set up the bow, but he was not in a hurry to shoot. Generally aiming and shooting this kind of bird in flight is actually not a simple matter. Naturally, Yusuke didn't intend to use normal aiming and shooting. 3 flame arrows, similar to the traces left behind after the fairy rod was lit, appeared around the arrow. As Yusuke let go, the 3 flame arrows followed the only real arrow and flew for a while. The arrows had begun to fall, getting further and further away from the 2 departing birds. But the flames and salt arrows haven't stopped yet. Under Yusuke's gaze, Hanoya turned around early and flew towards the sky. Yusuke put his hand in front of his eyebrows to block himself from the last dazzling rays of the sunset. The last 3 flames and salt arrows successfully took away 2 birds. The effect is not bad. Turning the bow in a circle in Yusuke's hand, the ruishui in Yusuke's hand returned to the system backpack. Xiaogong is a character that I have recently drawn, and this, fire and salt arrow, is one of the effects of Xiaogong's aiming and shooting. Why does this thing fly upside down? In fact, it's simply because Yan Niuya has the ability to automatically track the enemy. This effect is so outrageous that even if Yusuke fires an arrow at the enemy, the fire arrow will still hit the enemy. Even if you are faster than the Yan Niuya will not disappear. It will always chase the enemy. As for the result, the high probability is that he will run away, he will chase him, and he will be unable to fly even with wings. This is a regular weapon. Then you can carry it down, but you can't help but let me miss you, even if I'm always chasing you. Came back. After Yusuke picked up the 2 birds whose feathers had been burned clean, Kushina and the other 2 came back. How did you tell? Yusuke walked directly to the tied-up old man, and took off his fake beard and wig. When I was picking off my beard, it even throbbed in pain. Although he is said to be an old man, he is actually a middle-aged man. How did you tell that I was pretending? The middle-aged man looked at Yusuke squatting in front of him and directly asked Kushina the question in the 3 minds. Your makeup skills are really good. But don't you think it's strange that there are 2 birds at the entrance of a village, 1 black and 1 white? What's more, even though I shouted so loudly, the 2 birds kept pecking on the ground and showed no signs of flying away. That's even more strange. If there is a problem with the bird, I will naturally be suspicious of the person. It's time to eat, and it's hard for me not to be suspicious of the person sitting here without eating. In fact, after becoming suspicious, Yusuke secretly took out Ruishui. With his perceptual ability, he could only confirm that this person was not a ninja, but whether there was a problem, Yusuke himself did not dare to define it casually. As a result, when Ruishui was taken out, Ruishui was so bright. If the water is bright, it means there are enemies around. Excluding the 3 little ones and myself, the only person left is the person lying on the deck chair. In the end, I deceived you, and I actually deceived you. I should say it or not, but you still lack some charisma. Those 2 birds are probably the tools you use to convey messages to the bandits. I must be right, right? That's right. The middle-aged man lowered his head, and Yusuke also stood up contentedly. He looked at the 3 Kushinas standing in a row with this man. All 3 men lowered their heads. The enemy was right in front of him, and the loopholes were so obvious, but he really didn't see anything. After talking about him, let's talk about you 3. Yusuke crossed his arms, lay down on the man's recliner, and said to the 3 little ones. Kushina and the 3 of them, everyone's heart skipped a beat, and they were about to start talking about themselves. You 3 also lack a little insight. But, considering that this is your first mission, and I did have the idea of training you before, I didn't expect to encounter such a thing. So, let's just do it this time. It won't be an example next time. Just saying it is empty talk. I hope you will pay more attention to it in the future. Do you know everything? New. The voices of the 3 Kushinas who answered were filled with power again. It's not too early today. Let's go to the top of the mountain where the bandits are. Find a place to rest first and then attack the bandits during the day tomorrow. Let's go. According to the flight direction of the two birds, Yusuke easily found the top of the mountain where the bandit was. I want to use illusion to interrogate the person I caught today. Yusuke was eating the dinner prepared by the three little ones, and Fugaku took the initiative to come over. Now this task is your own task. Just do it according to your own ideas. Yes, amazing. Crack the skull with a strong hand. Although, in Yusuke's opinion, calling out the name of a skill when playing it is a bit shameful. But looking at Kushina is totally enjoying it. And Kushina at this time. The skill name given by the eldest brother is smooth. It's just cool. Just do it and that's it. Kushina's hands. At this time, there were several people who were caught by the wind nest in Kushina's hands and had no way to escape. Immediately afterwards, the people on the left and right hands were violently bumped together, conquering others. This was followed by two more punches, one slow and one fast. At this time, the bandits were already targeting Kushina with weapons such as bows and arrows. Don't tell me, it originally converted the damage received over a period of time into a shield, and caused damage to the enemies in front. As a result, Kushina had the feeling of a wind wall inexplicably. All the bows and arrows shot towards Kushina were intercepted by the wind surrounding Kushina's body. Kushina then turned around, and the wind that had gathered around her body, mixed with the weapons that the opponent had shot before, were all thrown in the direction of the opponent's shooting. Kushina Daihatsu Kamui, Minato and Fugaku are naturally no less generous. Minato was like a sharp sword thrust out, accompanied by the fierce wind, and he plunged directly into the bandits' camp. A spear flew in his hand, and bandits were whipped away from time to time. In fact, based on Minato's strength alone, it is impossible to directly send a strong man flying more than 10 meters. Yusuke clearly saw that there was blue wind on Yusuke's gun, wrapping around the gun body. This time, Kushina and Minato specially left some ninjas behind and handed them over to Fugaku. In the last bell experiment, Fugaku failed to show his strength, but now, Fugaku finally has a chance to show himself. Fire style, great fireball technique. Well, it's still the Uchiha family, skills that remain unchanged for 10,000 years. In fact, the level of ninjutsu has little to do with the final effect he uses. The B-level ninjutsu used by Madara, the powerful fire extinguisher, requires the Ninja World Alliance version of water barrier to block it. Fugaku's great fireball alone is beyond the level of ordinary Chunin. With his two companions having so much fun, Fugaku's heart certainly couldn't be released by just one great fireball. Fugaku also played with a wave of flowers. Most people need to put their hands on their mouths during the process of spitting the great fireball. But Fugaku was different. Fugaku's action was directly interrupted. Still spraying great fireball from his mouth, Fugaku already had several more kunai in his hands. The kunai was thrown, forming an encirclement that enveloped all enemies. After spitting out the great fireball, Fugaku's other seal is ready. Fire-style dragon fire technique. When he heard the name of this jutsu, Yusuke, who was standing behind the three little ones, knew which jutsu it was. Fire appeared from Fugaku's mouth and went straight to the great fireball before, and shot out, but was shot away by 7 or 8 more kunai. The round hole at the tail of the kunai was tied with a transparent fishing line. And Fugaku's fire flew out along the trajectory of the fishing line. Boom! Yusuke punched the bandit who was charging towards him, knocking him down, and continued to enjoy the performance of these people. Although the strength shown now is not as good as the strength shown when dealing with himself during the bell test. But hitting others and hitting yourself certainly have different feelings. The ninjas of Konoha are, to be precise, the army of the Land of Fire. In addition to the military, the Fire Country naturally has ordinary local law enforcement agencies except Konoha. So people like myself are actually more like an army coming to suppress bandits. Yusuke had not visited before, but now, these people still need to be handed over to nearby law enforcement agencies. Tie up everyone. Those who are missing arms and legs don't need to tie them up. It was very exciting during the fight, but after gathering these gangsters, each of the three little ones could only imagine the feeling of stepping on an arm or half a leg. What are you all thinking about? Yusuke's voice reached everyone's ears at this time. In the situation just now, if you keep your hands, what's on the ground now is your own head. Comma. Thank you for your help, Ninja-sama. These guys have been too rampant recently. Thank you for your help. We are just following the mission. Ninja-sama, why don't you stay and have dinner before leaving? No, I have something else to do. I'll stay for a while. After a few more pleasantries, Yusuke led the people and left the security department here. This structure, to be honest, was copied from Konoha's security department. Then Ninja-sama, walk slowly. In fact, while Kushina and the three were dealing with the bandits, Yusuke himself had already been very energetic. After all, no one knows when the person who intercepts and kills him will appear. In Yusuke's judgment, in the process of dealing with bandits, interception and killing of himself and others began to become possible. After all, the messier it is, the better the results can be achieved. Fishing in troubled waters is indeed a strategy. But the other party didn't. Even during the escort process, Yusuke never felt that there were a large number of ninjas within his range of perception. I didn't show up at the security department just now. Until Yusuke took the three little ones out of the town, they still didn't show up. Could it be that Orochimaru and I really thought too much? Such a possibility suddenly appeared in Yusuke's mind, but in the end Yusuke shook his head silently. The probability of this happening is also low. The invincible plot that I fantasized about was no longer there, and it turned out that it was just to play with myself. If this is the case, Yusuke feels that this will be a big blow to him. Our mission has been completed, so where should we go next? Didn't I tell you that I would take you to Rain Shinobi Village? Of course I will do what I said. Okay, Rain Shinobi Village. Yusuke is quite familiar with the road to Rain Shinobi. Pointing to the road in front of him, Yusuke introduced the three people. Whether you are going to Rain Shinobi or Konoha, you need to take this road. Then it should be on this road. Brother, what were you talking about just now? Yusuke's last words were spoken in such a low voice that Kushina, who was the closest, couldn't hear anything at all. After setting foot on this road and walking for a while, whether in front of or behind Yusuke, the birds in the woods were frightened by the strong wind caused by the rapid movement. Come yet, Yusuke said quietly. What Yusuke didn't expect was that these groups of people would actually come together. Protect yourself. The three little ones instantly became alert. Fugaku is because his father told him something, and Kushina and Minato are because of Kushina's identity. As his hand moved, a spear appeared in Yusuke's hand. Or it can't be called a gun. To be more precise, it should be called a staff, more appropriately. The top position is not a conventional single point, but two red, wing-shaped things. Polearm, Staff of Goma. The Staff of Goma played a game of gun and flower in Yusuke's hand, and then started spinning like an electric fan. All the ninja tools shot from the front were knocked away. Yusuke turned around and made several more turns, knocking away all the ninja tools shot from behind. After dealing with 2 rounds of various ninja tools, the opponent also stopped shooting. Because at this time, the two sides have become quite close. In other words, the people coming from the front and the people coming from behind formed a circular circle, surrounding the 4 Yusukes in the middle. Yusuke looked around at the people around him. These people were all wearing the same set of clothes. Obviously there are different types of clothes and people from different factions. People from different villages mostly have slightly different characteristics. For example, the group of people right in front. There are traces of the sealing technique on the tongue. If you think about it with your feet, you can guess that it is the person from the root. And this group of people is also the largest number of people who come. Are you all here? Yusuke's face didn't show much panic. But almost none of the ninjas in the encirclement spoke. The only person who answered Yusuke was a Konoha ninja in the encirclement who was the first to attack Yusuke. As for the others, there has been no movement yet. It's already here, and you're still thinking about a duel. Yusuke raised his eyebrows, raised his spear horizontally, raised the opponent's weapon, and with a simple exchange of blows, he knocked the opponent back to the encirclement with a stick. It seems that people in this ninja world have no idea what it means to be an inch longer and an inch stronger. That's right, after all, weapons in the ninja world are rarely made very long for convenience. Hanzo's scythe, after adding the chain. It's the longest Yusuke has ever recognized. After directly defeating the opponent, Yusuke looked around and asked the people around him, I think the goals of both of you are different, right? The person at the root is obviously the one taking the lead today. As for Yusuke's mouth, he also has a clear understanding that this person's tongue will make his dear Lord Danzo lose his temper every time. So after Yusuke said something, the person taking the lead gave the order directly. Do it, WC. Don't talk about martial ethics. Are you here to trick a blind man like me? And this time, it wasn't like before, where someone came to practice physical skills with him alone. Fire style How Long Fire. Water style Water Dragon Bomb Technique. Earth style Split the earth and turn the palm. Lightning style Ground Walk. Almost instantly, Yusuke felt great pressure. Ninjutsu came from all directions, like the waves of the ocean. The four of them were like a few weak and helpless boats in an instant, and they could disappear into the sea at any time. Yusuke felt a little bit of pressure, but the three children were even more uncomfortable. Everyone's face has the most nervous look in their life. Yusuke's eyes under the bandage glowed golden. Don't be afraid, close your eyes. Kushina and the other three did as they were told. The next second, a majestic voice echoed in Yusuke's mind. The heavens are moving. It was still afternoon and the sunshine was still wonderful. But at this time, in the sky, suddenly, a huge hole appeared in the night sky. In the night sky, stars are naturally indispensable. In the eyes of everyone, this star was falling rapidly towards the ground, towards its own position, in a free fall. Back up quickly. Violent smoke and dust appeared, centered on Yusuke. But Yusuke could sense that not many people were actually hurt at all. The law that smoke brings no harm can also be applied to yourself. Although the power of the sky star is indeed not small, there is actually a problem in using the sky star in reality. That is, during the period when the star falls, these people still have the possibility of breaking out of the range of the star. After all, the mobility of ninjas is really not limited. If you encounter a flying thunder god, it will be even more impossible to hit. In fact, the best plan is to use a large-scale water attribute skill first, and then follow it up with a large-scale ice attribute skill. Use freezing to control these people first, so that the sky star skill can cause damage, and after the damage is done, use the petrification effect of the sky star to complete the supplement of the control skills. But the above are not important in the current actual combat and the overall plan. The important thing is that he can rely on Zhongli's second level, that is, the second life effect, to put his own Jade Zhong shield on the three little ones who are judged to be teammates. When the star falls, there will be a very obvious circle on the ground. Although the scope of this circle is very large, there are still some people who have always been outside the circle, so this star does not prevent them from continuing to release ninjutsu. But Yusuke looked at these ninjutsu, and they all hit Yuzhong's shield. Yuzhong's shield simply lit up, but other than that, there was no reaction. What comes next is the highlight. Blow away the smoke with wind style. Wind style vacuum sphere. Wind style great breakthrough. The two most common ninjutsu directly blew away the smoke covering the four Yusukes, revealing the four Yusukes. Seeing this, as the root ninja who always took the lead today, he naturally planned to take action. The heavenly star move just now was too powerful and must have consumed a lot of energy. This move must not be performed consecutively. Yusuke, it's true that I can't play them consecutively, but I'm not using chakra either. My chakra has not moved at all until now. Move. Just when he was about to start speaking, a voice full of anger sounded outside the encirclement. What are you people doing in broad daylight? Kushina, whose eyes were still closed, also heard this sound, and felt that this sound was very familiar. Okay, you can open your eyes now. Yusuke's voice reached the ears of the three people at this time. Chapter 101. The three of them slowly opened their eyes and saw that the ninjas directly in front of them had all turned their heads. Look behind them. That direction was exactly where the person who had just shouted was located. The three of them looked at the person calling. Kushina and Minato looked happy, but Fugaku looked confused. After seeing the expressions of Kushina and Minato, I became even more confused. Who is this? Sure enough, in this home, I really have a little bit of excess. Brother Nawaki, kill them. Nawaki. Now Nawaki can be regarded as the ultimate idol of everyone younger than Nawaki in Konoha, bar none. Come on, Konoha barrier is really cool. Yusuke touched the head of Kushina, who blushed and had a thick neck from shouting. Nawaki, brother-in-law, you can handle these people, right? Nawaki. No problem, leave it to me, my dear brother-in-law. Nawaki also put the huge bell sword on his shoulders, and he was ready to go. The root ninja who faced Nawaki was also in a state of uncertainty at this time. Before Danzo set off, he had clearly agreed that Yusuke Mikami would not have any support, so tell me, where did this Nawaki come from? Of course, it was just a feeling of uneasiness, and the emotion of fear was actually not much. What is my identity? Although people in the root group will basically not take the ninja level exam, at any rate, I am also the one appointed by Lord Danzo to take charge of this mission, Jonin, okay. What is your identity, Nawaki? Sora has the reputation of Konoha barrier, and Genin has the reputation, which is definitely a boast. I'm a dignified Jonin, I'm going to beat you, Genin, isn't it easy? The root leader now really wanted to look back at Yusuke and say a harsh word. But after Nawaki shouted, no problem, brother-in-law, he directly raised his two-handed sword and rushed towards his group. Get rid of him quickly. After saying these words, what greeted him was a 40-meter two-handed sword with a golden light that was struck directly from the front. Resisting the urge to shout, I will pay attention to the etiquette of the maid, the big sword in Nawaki's hand is mainly about momentum. The aura is so strong that even if he is holding such a big sword, he will not look weak, and even the sword will look smaller. If Yusuke were to describe it, it would be a proper, human walking Gundam. Although he uses a two-handed sword, Nawaki's speed is not slow. Especially the first sword was a sword mixed with gravitational potential energy. Although the leader stopped his seal movement and hid, there were still a few slow runners who were hit by the vertical slash followed by the horizontal sweep. Nawaki only attracted half of the enemies, and half of the enemies were waiting for Yusuke. Armed with a gun, Yusuke faces the remaining half. The expressions of Kushina and the three others returned to normal at this time. The task of exterminating bandits that was just completed is like an appetizer now. At this moment, the real meal has arrived. And they were still fighting to the death, but now they had gone through the baptism of appetizers, had begun to develop resistance to blood, and had a correct understanding of their identity as ninjas. There was no need to shout, kill, or anything like that. Both sides almost took action immediately. To create Yanghua, along with Yusuke's gesture, golden flowers slapped on the ground. When an enemy in the area centered on Yanghua is damaged, Yanghua will generate a momentary flower, which will bloom and cause rock-type area damage. The damage is based on Albedo's defense. The rock attribute damage is not triggered when Yusuke attacks, but when the enemy is damaged, this damage will be triggered. This also means that not only Yusuke, but also the damage caused by Minato and the others can trigger Yanghua's attack as long as they are in the circle formed by Yanghua. Cut the rain and leave the rainbow. One-handed sword character followed one-handed sword character. After receiving this move, Yusuke did not immediately use elemental combat skills to cut walnuts. Instead, he followed up with an elemental combat skill, causing his body to draw an arc in the air. The ripples caused by the one-handed sword hit the enemy who rushed in front of Yusuke while using the lightning style. The opponent was knocked back by this blow. Yusuke took a step forward and used the passive of the ritual sword to perform another elemental combat skill. Rise. On the Goma staff, a flame that matched it almost perfectly began to burn. Fugaku had only seen Minato use a gun, and the first time he used a sword, his first impression was only one word. Handsome. And now, in Fugaku's Sharingan, Yusuke's movements are even more handsome than Minato's. Yusuke was like a ignited arrow, piercing directly into the opponent's position. There are no superfluous movements, just a horizontal slash, a dash, and a dash. It's obviously a very simple action, but Yusuke is like a ghost, sometimes even passing through people's bodies directly. The person who was passed through did not have any wounds on his body, and his clothes were not ignited by the flames of the gun, but he would still fall heavily to the ground while Yusuke was looking for the next target. With Sharingan here, watching Yusuke operate does not prevent him from taking action. But in the process of releasing various ninjutsu, the three of Fugaku all understood why Yusuke placed a circle at the beginning. Because at this time, every attack they make will bring up a golden flower-shaped shadow. And every enemy blasted by this phantom will receive a huge attack. On the other side, Naoki found the opportunity and successfully approached the leading ninja at the point where the cleaning was about to disappear, and knocked him to the ground with a sword. Demacia, this seems like a show. Not a big problem. The two-handed broadsword had already been taken out, and it penetrated directly from top to bottom through the neck of the root leader. His neck, of course, was not as wide as the great sword in Naoki's hand. The sword mercilessly penetrated Naoki's entire neck, and blood instantly covered half of Naoki's body. After getting rid of the leader, Naoki suddenly turned around and raised his sword to point at the place where he originally squatted. Both sides raised their questions at the same time. There was a Naoki squatting on the tree, and there was another Naoki standing on the battlefield with blood covering half of his body. But Naoki, who had been killing for a long time, reacted first. Origin, since you are here, there is nothing left for me to do, so I will leave first. While talking, I saw Naoki, who had defeated many ninjas before, made a seal, and his whole body turned into a puff of smoke and left. Naoki squatting on the tree. What is this all about? Although my mind is still completely confused, I haven't turned around at all. But this did not prevent Naoki from analyzing the scene in front of him. Excluding the sudden appearance of an extra person, the current scene is that his brother-in-law, Kushina, Minato, and a child he doesn't know are being besieged. Naoki made a quick decision and immediately took out his bell sword and rushed towards the ninjas in the encirclement. In the eyes of the root members, this is undoubtedly the conclusion that the Naoki who disappeared just now is actually Naoki's clone. In fact, Naoki was really confused. But fighting has become Naoki's instinct. As for who the first Naoki was, who else could it be but Yusuke? After all, it's Yusuke's usual trick. To be honest, Yusuke didn't expect to bump into Naoki. Yes, the candidate Yusuke discussed with Orochimaru that night was actually Naoki. The reason is also very simple. This game of third generation requires someone to break it from the outside. Yusuke and Orochimaru both think so. This candidate must meet several points. First, if you are not in the village, you still have to be a member of the village. If you are not a member of the village, it will be useless even if you take action. Because no one from Konoha takes action, it will basically not affect the judgment of third generation's purpose. After all, people from other villages have no way to confirm, but it is possible to falsify it. Second, this person must be strong enough to face many ninjas. Otherwise, the third generation project will be able to test out the real materials, so the person is still handled by Yusuke, so this does not count as a break. Combining these 2 points, Orochimaru presented Naoki and Tsukumo. And the last person chosen was Naoki. Although Tsukumo can now feel the situation between Yusuke and the third generation, he still cannot clearly identify him as a member of his generation. Loyalty to superiors is something that is engraved in the bones of the Hatamoto family, which started as a samurai family. Fortunately, Tsukumo is not a foolish and loyal person, but after all, he has not completely taken sides. In addition, Tsukumo is still on the front line of Sand Shinobi and will not be able to come back recently, so Tsukumo was passed. And Naoki happened to be coming back recently. After all, the Chunin exam was coming soon. Do you have the strength yourself? It can only be said that it has a certain level of strength. It is actually a question mark whether it has the ability to kill all the ninjas who come to participate in the operation. But one thing about Naoki is that he is on the front line. Whether it is Yusuke or third generation, they have basically no idea about Naoki's situation. This gives Yusuke room to maneuver. So Yusuke has released the clone in advance and asked the clone to go to the front line of Sand Shinobi to find Naoki. And Naoki's appearance here was beyond Yusuke's expectations. Yusuke's own firepower was fully activated, and coupled with the creation method and simulation Yanghua, the damage caused by the 3 little ones was greatly increased. So Yusuke quickly dealt with all the enemies. After freeing up his hands, Yusuke helped Naoki and together they dealt with the remaining few people. After experiencing such a one-sided miserable battle, there were only 5 Yusuke left on the field. Feeling these people lying on the ground, Yusuke wanted to laugh inexplicably. This third generation project is really interesting. They all took action against themselves, but in the end, it was Danzo's people who were sent. Moreover, the strength of this group of people is not low. After Danzo gets the news, he will probably be so angry that he vomits blood. It seems that this time, third generation has a trick up its sleeve. Danzo is still the same Danzo who is so confident that he is arrogant in writing and stupid in reading. Otherwise, he would not have sent so many elites. It's just a pity that he and Orochimaru still have one move to win. If you vomit blood, you will vomit blood. When I return to Konoha, I will have to settle a score with you again. By then, no one will be able to escape. After checking that there was no one alive and repairing the knife, Naoki walked up to Yusuke. What's going on here, brother-in-law? It's a bit hard to explain to you. Yusuke scratched his face and hesitated. But after taking a closer look, Yusuke finally decided to tell Naoki. But not now. It is better not to let these children know about these things about yourself. I'll tell you later when I get a chance. Good. Naoki nodded. At this time, Kushina and the other three also ran over to catch up with Naoki. After briefly reminiscing about old times, Naoki naturally turned his attention to the only one he didn't recognize. Who is this? Kushina, Minato, and Naoki are all familiar with each other, but apart from that, the rest of the little boy is unknown to him. Uchiha Fugaku. Naoki. The two nodded, and the corners of Fugaku's mouth instantly rose a little. Naoki was a little confused. Why was this kid so happy looking at him? Okay. Yusuke put his arm around Naoki's shoulders and asked Naoki, what are you going to do next? I was thinking of returning to the village to take the ninja level exam. After all, I am still a genin. Tsukumo-senpai also thought that I should take a rest, so he kicked me out of the front line. Kushina and the others, after participating in this mission, it is time to prepare to take the Chunin exam. So Yusuke said that Naoki would join them, which was certainly not groundless. After they return to the village, they will probably start preparing for the Chunin exam. Naoki was somewhat surprised. Now he suddenly realized, why did Yusuke appear here with Kushina and the others? Yusuke saw Naoki's surprise and explained to Yusuke with a smile. I am now their mentor Jonin and they are both members of Team 7. I'm going to finish my mission and take them to Rain Shinobi Village for a while. Do you want to go with me? What is there to do in Rain Shinobi Village? Naoki's first reaction was to refuse, and then he immediately returned to the village, started his own special training, and then performed ruthlessly during the Chunin exam. Jiraiya has 3 apprentices in Rain Shinobi Village. I originally wanted to take the 3 of them to Rain Shinobi to find Jiraiya, and then take them for training. Naoki, who had been training alone on the front line, suddenly woke up. Yes, I learned all my skills from my dear brother-in-law and might die. If I go back to the village to train on my own, can the effect really be better than practicing alone? Almost instantly, Naoki changed his mind and immediately shouted, I want to go too. Then let's go together. Yusuke smiled and touched Naoki's head. But before leaving, let's put all these corpses into this scroll. Facts have proved that it is easy for children and young children to get together. For example, Kushina and Konan are both girls, and they can talk about girls' topics. Kushina also has closer distance with Nagato by virtue of the fact that they both have red hair. In the end, these children sat at the door and looked at the rain, and began to talk about peace in the ninja world. As for Yusuke, he kept making drinks for Jiraiya to help satisfy his craving. After all, in the land of rain for so long, Jiraiya really couldn't drink Yusuke's wine. In the afternoon, Yusuke arranged for the 2 sides to have a game. As a result, the 6 people started to get nervous in an instant. This made both Jiraiya and Yusuke dumbfounded. But here we are, but because of the half-day exchange, everyone is now getting into trouble. Naughty as it is, both Jiraiya and Yusuke think it's totally okay to give it a try. Jiraiya wanted to test the current achievements of the 3 little ones. But after watching it for a while, Yusuke had no intention of reading any more. Even if Kushina and the other 2 stopped their efforts, they were still in a crushing situation. Except for what kind of strength Yahiko can reach, Yusuke is not very clear. Others can more or less see it from the original work. Logically speaking, it should be about the same. No matter how talented you are, you still need time to realize your talent. The training time for range shinobi's 3 little ones is still too short. But just after Yusuke slightly withdrew his attention from the 3 little ones, Yusuke's perception ability suddenly came out with an early warning. Anyone. Almost as soon as the idea came up, Yusuke rejected it himself. There is indeed a being observing oneself, but this being cannot be defined as a strict person. To be precise, he should be called Black Zetsu. The nickname of the Hokage ninja is not just the eye legend. Black Zetsu saves his mother is also one of his nicknames. If given the chance, Yusuke actually really wants to have a chat with Black Zetsu. In this ninja world, it is estimated that only myself and Black Zetsu himself can see through the true self, right? As for Kagaya, this doesn't count. She is on the moon, and she is not in the ninja world. Speaking of Kagaya Haim, the big boss in the ninja world, Yusuke actually doesn't have much ill intentions. To put it bluntly, I am simply afraid of Otsutsuki Momoshiki, Jinshiki, and Arashiki. And these people are also enemies of the ninja world. The biggest problem for Otsutsuki Kagaya is that he wants to use the sacred tree to activate infinite Tsukuyomi and wants to turn everyone into White Zetsu, so that White Zetsu can resist the Otsutsuki clan. Let's not talk about White Zetsu's own fighting ability. Just saying that forcing his will on others is Kagaya's biggest problem. As for why Black Zetsu is here, it's actually very simple. Of course it's for Nagato's current pair of Rinnegan. Should I say it or not, I am indeed a legend of eyes. These eyes are Madara's through Sharingan, combined with the piece of flesh bitten off from Hashirama's body in the battle at the Valley of the End. Are the eyes that were born in the end the flesh and blood of Madara and Senju Hashirama? It's like a mosquito sucking your blood. If you hit it, it will say that it has your flesh and blood on it. Black Zetsu came, and with the attention of Jiraiya and Nawaki, the 6 people on the field were all on the field. Yusuke directly made a seal, a silky small combo of clone technique and transformation technique. On the hillside in the distance, Black Zetsu only exposed his head, observing the people on the field. As for why Yusuke Mikami appeared here, Black Zetsu was actually not particularly surprised. After all, Jiraiya is here, so Yusuke Mikami will inevitably come. As for whether Yusuke Mikami will discover the Rinnegan in Nagato and want to do something to the Rinnegan, Black Zetsu thinks it is unlikely. In Black Zetsu's opinion, Mikami Yusuke is a good person. Let's talk. Yusuke didn't realize that he had been dealt a good guy card by Black Zetsu unknowingly. He was directly behind Black Zetsu and asked Black Zetsu, "We have nothing to talk about." After saying that, Black Zetsu's head on the ground disappeared. Walking so fast, Yusuke pouted. Black Zetsu's mayfly technique is really a bit awesome. By integrating one's body with the vegetation of the earth to achieve high-speed movement, one can integrate with the earth, and then by intervening in the organic networks such as the roots of plants and underground water flows that exist in the ground, one can move to any place at high speed. During the activation of the ninjutsu, all breath is cut off. Yusuke's opinion of Black Zetsu is not very good, but Yusuke's opinion of Black Zetsu is not important. What is important is Kagaya behind Black Zetsu. Black Zetsu probably thinks so too. Compared to myself, Kagaya is more important. Regarding Kagaya, Yusuke actually maintains a relatively stable emotional range. I didn't mention the 2 emotions of loving it very much, or sometimes hating it to the point of itch. Kagaya can be released, and it is almost necessary to release him. After he is released, he will be his guide, leading him to find the Otsutsuki clan and deal with the Otsutsuki clan. If the Otsutsuki clan is not dealt with, if things develop into Boruto, I will probably want to die. But don't worry about this. The reason for not being in a hurry must be attributed to myself. There are still many characters that I have not yet drawn, and my strength still has a lot of room for improvement. Among the 7 gods with the highest combat power in Teyvat, he only has one rock god, Zhongli. Moreover, this Zhongli is still stuck on the 5th level, and the 6th level is still far away, and this upgrade cannot be directly upgraded with the ownerless Stardust. It still needs a certain opportunity. Yusuke has some guesses about this opportunity, but for a while, this opportunity is really difficult to achieve. And Yusuke had a vague guess that when his Zhongli reaches the full level, it will bring about a qualitative change. Why does he act like he knows me and knows a lot of things? He ran away simply because he felt guilty and was used to the habit of running away as soon as he was discovered. But now, after calming down, Yusuke's performance just now flashed before his eyes again, and Black Zetsu also realized that something was wrong. Black Zetsu originally didn't pay much attention to Mikami Yusuke, but only paid a little attention to him. His most important task recently is to investigate the Arataki faction that suddenly appeared twice. The only thing I wanted to do to Yusuke Mikami was to go to Uchiha's house, steal Yusuke Mikami's pair of 3 Tomo Sharingan, and use them for Madara. I originally thought about sneaking in the Sharingan while Konoha was fighting everywhere. In the end, I don't know who was not smart enough to take a step ahead of me and got rid of many Sharingans first. You can try to get in touch next time. Black Zetsu thought about Yusuke Mikami's performance just now and whispered to himself. Seeing that Black Zetsu ran away and the clone was meaningless, Yusuke immediately deactivated the clone technique. Needless to say, the ninjutsu in the ninja world is really useful sometimes. Can chakra explain everything? Yes, chakra explains everything. When Yusuke turned all his attention back to the 6-person battle scene in front of him, the 6 people had already finished fighting. Naturally, the 3 Kushinas won. The gap in strength is still too big, so big that no matter how high the combat IQ is, it is difficult to make up for it. What's more, Minato, who is responsible for the battle command on Kushina's side, has a very good combat IQ. Of course, the emotional intelligence is not low either. This battle is a little overdone, but it's not too overdone. Well done. As a winner, Yusuke is naturally not stingy in his praise. The 3 victorious people also scratched their heads in embarrassment. Yusuke could understand this emotion, so he turned his attention to the 3 Yahikos. Don't be too frustrated, you guys. After all, your training time is still too short. Even a genius needs time to realize his talent. Yusuke didn't think that his simple words could directly clear away the gloom in the hearts of the 3 of them. Even though I understand the truth, it still takes time to accept it. The main problem now is the awkward atmosphere between the 6 people. Although they only met for the first time in the morning and established a certain connection, there is already a strong bond between these 6 children. I'm cooking tonight, what do you want to eat? Although Yusuke's cooking is indeed attractive, it does not completely make the 6 people let go of their embarrassment. Fortunately, Yusuke still has his own special skill. A skill that explodes like Tsukumo's Konoha Taijutsu forbidden technique. If you don't want to say anything, how about eating Sancho fish? After Yusuke took care of the poison sac, he actually took care of the Sancho fish when he talked to Orochimaru here last time and served it to the table. Not to mention, it tastes really good. It was only when everyone was halfway through eating that Yusuke said it was the meat of Sancho fish, and each one of them had their throats pressed to induce vomiting, and they were given antidotes. Anyway, in the end, the Sancho fish was handled by Yusuke alone. After Yusuke finished speaking, the 3 Yahikos, and even Jiraiya, immediately shouted, "No. Absolutely not." On the other hand, Kushina, the 3 of them, and Naoki were all confused. What is Sancho fish? Seeing the confused expressions of the 4 people, Jiraiya pulled Naoki, and Rain Shinobi pulled 3 Konoha little ones. Everyone had a look of horror on their faces, and they explained irritably. It's obviously quite delicious. Look at each of you. No means no. Well, I can only say that you listened to the slander and missed an excellent delicacy. Yusuke pretended to be helpless and shrugged, then asked several people. After the Sancho fish incident just now, the awkward atmosphere that permeated everyone present quickly disappeared. After gathering together for a full meal and a brief rest, they returned to the training ground. However, there was no rush to train. The main thing was that Yusuke took Konan aside and spoke, whispers, that everyone present could hear. Think about it, if you replaced all ordinary paper with detonating charms. When he said that he was enjoying himself, Yusuke himself took a deep breath. Hey, think about that scene, isn't it amazing? It seems, it's really powerful. Everyone listened attentively. After all, Yusuke was really good at educating people. Yusuke and Tsukumo are very similar. They both have eyes that can spot the bright spots in others, and they can really tell a development path suitable for that person. Just like Konan now, most of Konan's current techniques are related to paper. In the past, Paper to Conan was the paper flower given to himself, Tsunade, Jiraiya and Orochimaru. In the future, paper represents the sea of 600 billion detonating symbols in Conan's future. Speaking of this, I have to mention Conan's 600 billion detonating talismans, which wiped out the story of Shoutou's family that he worked hard to support through bounties. Paper is the carrier of the detonating charm. So Yusuke is still prepared to let Conan take this path, which is undoubtedly the most suitable path for Conan. Think about it, if you made yourself wings out of paper that allowed you to fly, and then you flew in the air and kept throwing detonating talismans to the ground, do you think it would be a terrible scene? Quote, "It's really awesome." Conan lowered his head and thought for a moment, but when he raised his head this time, his answer was no longer as cautious as when he answered it the first time. Instead, there was even a hint of excitement in his voice. Yusuke was right, but Conan's eyes became brighter and brighter as he listened. Everyone except Kushina was sitting in a row, with indescribable expressions on their faces, looking at Conan, who was holding Conan's shoulders and instilling in Conan the idea of replacing paper with detonating symbols. As for Kushina, because they feel that if Conan really becomes like this, the final result may be that he will become the same type as Kushina now. At once, one is the ultimate violent melee output, the other is the ultimate violent long-range bombing. Anyway, what I'm after is the violence of ultimate, and what I want is sensory stimulation. I think if we do this, I really can't say who will be more powerful in the future, you or Kushina. Kushina and Conan subconsciously wanted to be modest, but Yusuke's words immediately silenced them. I have already thought of your future names for you too. What? Conan blinked his big eyes and looked at Yusuke. When he heard the name, Kushina couldn't help but come closer. Kushina will be called the Ninja World Pressure Girl from now on, and Conan will be called the Ninja World Bomber Girl from now on. What do you think of these two names? Yusuke was extremely confident in the two names that suddenly appeared in his mind. As a result, the two parties involved had questions in their heads after hearing these two names. Ji, Bombing Girl. Think about it, aren't the moves you're using now just like forcing someone to hit them on the road? Conan's been flying in the sky throwing detonating charms, isn't it just bombing the enemy? As Yusuke spoke, he also added some actions to supplement the explanation. After finishing speaking, he looked at Kushina and Conan again and asked them, what do you think of this name now? I love so much. Me too. Facing these two little girls with excited faces, Yusuke smiled and touched their heads. The three people here were happy, but the men watching the show in the back all swallowed subconsciously. There is already a Kushina, now there is another one who can compare with Kushina. Moreover, flying in the sky and throwing detonating charms and other things, when you think about it carefully, everyone breaks out in cold sweat behind their backs. It's okay to lose a few pieces, but every time Conan uses his technique, the pieces of paper can fly all over the sky. If these papers are not just paper, but detonating symbols. Hiss. The few people watching the show all gasped and shuddered subconsciously. I wonder where to start learning. Yusuke held his chin, thought for a while, and set the first training goal. How about starting with making a detonator? To make the detonating talisman, you need some basic skills in sealing. Jiraiya, have you ever taught Conan the sealing technique? Never taught. The most commonly used techniques in the ninja world are ninjutsu, taijutsu, genjutsu, and sealing techniques. Only the kingdom of Whirlpool has achieved ultimate. The results of it, if he hadn't been caught in the song pot, when he and Tsunade got married, Tsunade would probably only have Nawaki and Kushina. Therefore, sealing techniques are some heretical practices, so although Jiraiya is good at sealing techniques, he has not taught Conan a few people. After all, he can't stay in range shinobi for a long time. What Conan and the others need is more destructive ninjutsu that can quickly increase their combat power. Then let's start with the introduction to the sealing technique. Yusuke reached behind his back and took out an introductory book on sealing, and put it in Conan's hand. If possible, Yusuke actually wants to see what will happen if tandem paper bombs falls into Conan's hands. Maybe you can just grind out a mushroom that will destroy the entire ninja world. Unfortunately, the current Yusuke does not know this technique. Yusuke suddenly realized that the ninjutsu in the ninja world might be more interesting than his current skills. Maybe books are related to paper, so Conan still likes to read books. Look carefully. This is the gift your sister-in-law Tsunade asked me to bring you. Before I leave, I will leave the book with you. The gift I gave you should also be given to you before I leave. Thanks. So good. After touching Konan's head again, Yusuke turned his head and looked at Yahiko and Nagato. You two have some, too. I'll leave them with you before I leave. Rain Shinobi's promise to the three little ones was over, so naturally he couldn't favor one over the other, so Yusuke looked at Minato and Fugaku again. As for the three of you, I'll give it to you after the Chunin exam is over. Naoki, I'll give it to you before I return to Konoha. What about mine? Jiraiya blinked his big eyes as cute as he could and looked at Yusuke. I'll leave you a bottle of good wine before I leave. Okay. Jiraiya instantly beamed. After saying this, Yusuke sat next to Jiraiya, and Konan was not in a hurry while reading, so they all started training according to their own plans. Yusuke and Jiraiya picked up the small wine glasses, felt the humid environment around them, and drank. The faces of the two quickly turned red. Naoki, who was sitting next to them, was drinking the fruit tea in his hand and looking longingly at the wine glasses in their hands. Oh, the pain of not reaching the drinking age really hurts. Of course, Yusuke and Jiraiya couldn't just drink, and the two of them chatted without a word. No, Jiraiya asked a question. Why don't you teach Nagato and Yahiko? Yusuke thinks that he has done everything he can for these 6 children. But this does not prevent Yusuke's evaluation of these 6 people from being more or less high or low. If you have to evaluate, Kushina, Minato, and Konan belong to the first echelon. This world is a real world. Single quote. This is a truth that Yusuke realized a long time ago. This evaluation can not only be applied to the third-generation conspiracy theory, but also to everyone in the ninja world. Although I am here, many things that will happen in the future may not necessarily happen. But what caused those endings was still due to their own problems. Take Fugaku for example. The fact that Uchiha destroyed his family is actually closely related to the weakness in Fugaku's character. As for Yahiko and Nagato, in fact, Yusuke himself is not sure now what kind of peace the ninja world should be. Peace, a word that binds countless people, has unknowingly entangled itself in his hands. Thinking of this, Yusuke laughed silently at himself. Yusuke did not continue to think deeply, but moved his body, preparing to answer Jiraiya's question first. The path that Yahiko is suitable for is actually very similar to yours. As for Nagato, after Yusuke's obvious retardation, just when Jiraiya was about to ask if there was anything wrong with Nagato, Yusuke's words reached Jiraiya's ears. There are shackles on Nagato's body that bind him. This answer successfully made Jiraiya what the Riddler is. Judging from Jiraiya's confused reaction, Yusuke guessed that Jiraiya might not have discovered Nagato's pair of Rinnegan yet. Stop talking about them, let's talk about you first. What happened to me? Jiraiya looked like he didn't care. Don't you want to take your strength even further? Of course I do, so I plan to go to Mount Myoboku to practice senjutsu after the war is almost over. Jiraiya knew that Yusuke knew about the 3 great immortal lands. After all, the one in his family was Tsunade who signed a contract with Shiguren. Yusuke was about to answer, but Jiraiya leaned directly into his ear and asked Yusuke, by the way, when you fought Hanzo, did Summoning's Ice Wolf still accept people? Is he still alive? Can you give me a baby or something like that? Even if it's not a summoning beast, I'd be happy raising it. There's only one of mine. Seeing that Jiraiya became a little frustrated because of these words, Yusuke quickly changed the topic and started to make amends. You will definitely be able to successfully master the magic of immortality. I don't think I've said it yet. There will be danger if we fail. Shouldn't you say, lend me some good words now? I'd like to lend you some good words. By the way, let me tell you a method that suits you. Jiraiya's interest instantly rose again, and Yusuke also came up with a plan that he had prepared long ago that was suitable for Jiraiya. After practicing senjutsu, I think you can try using oil to strengthen your fire style. Adding fire to oil should greatly enhance your ninjutsu. Jiraiya drank too much and was in a hurry. After a while, his whole face was red and he was already in a drunken state. Yusuke put down the wine glass and looked at Naoki who was holding the cup and drinking fruit tea. Want to drink? Naoki nodded subconsciously, but soon realized that he was not old enough, so he hurriedly shook his head. If you want to drink, just say so. After peeking for so long, you really pretended I didn't see it. This is not in a village, nor is it a battlefield that requires quick response. I'll give you a break. Is it really possible? Naoki became excited instantly and looked at Yusuke with starry eyes. Yusuke smiled and took out another small cup and poured some for Naoki. Naoki took it with joy on his face, and imitated Yusuke and Jiraiya, pouring the wine in the cup directly into his mouth. Puff! Naoki spit out all the wine and started fanning his mouth with his hands. His mouth opened wide, trying to release the alcohol in his mouth, while not forgetting to express his own comments. It tastes terrible. This wine was really not made by Yusuke, but he bought 2 bottles for Jiraiya before leaving Konoha. Okay, stop fanning, come here and tell you something. Naoki nodded and quickly followed Yusuke's footsteps. After arriving at a secluded place that was not too far from the training ground, Yusuke stopped and looked back at Naoki. Don't you want to know why we encountered interceptions? Now let me tell you, there is actually no problem. Naoki nodded. Although Naoki couldn't guess what the reason was, he could still feel that there was a deep involvement behind it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have said it until now. Let me think about where to start and tell you first. After holding his chin and thinking for a while, Yusuke began to speak. It starts directly from the current corruption of Konoha's top management and continues to the recent situation, which is what the 3rd generation aims to do to itself. Naoki has the right to know these things. He has gone through the hard work of the battlefield, and no one sees him anymore, and the evaluation of him is still that of a child. After you are no longer a child, you will naturally start to face the real world. That's what happened. After Yusuke finished speaking, he also felt a sense of relief. Before Naoki knew it, he had reached the standard where he could almost travel with his own group of people. It was no longer the stage where, for his own safety, he kept himself where he was. Naoki himself fell into silence for a long time after listening to Yusuke's words. Yusuke also began to wait quietly for Naoki's response. For Naoki now, this cannot be said to be a matter of sooner or later, but a matter of whether Naoki can accept it. This is the real Konoha. After a while, Naoki himself suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. There was no fierce opposition, no cooperation with a smile on the face, and some just a rhetorical question. What do I need to do? In fact, in Naoki's heart, he has a certain fondness for the 3rd generation project. This is exactly the same mentality as many children in Konoha. Because Hokage is the strongest person they know, the person with the highest prestige. However, due to the attitude of Yusuke and the people around him towards the purpose of 3rd generation, Naoki is now very rear admiral and these emotions have been expressed. In what Yusuke just said, what Naoki wanted at first was about the second half, why Yusuke was hunted down. After listening to the beginning, Naoki realized that he was wrong. Yusuke, his sister, and his first teacher Orochimaru, they all have reasons for not liking the purpose of 3rd generation. Moreover, these reasons are all real, and I can't refute them at all. It was only at this moment, following Yusuke's words, that Naoki finally realized what kind of 3rd generation program he admired. What is wrong with his beloved Konoha? So, Naoki asked this question. Yusuke has already prepared the answer to this question. Improve your own strength. Your current strength cannot hide the purpose of 3rd generation. In the previous battle with the group of interceptors, Naoki faced the siege of many ninjas. Although he had experience on the battlefield, Naoki still had a very difficult time facing many Jonin. As for how much Naoki weighs, there are countless ways to test 3rd generation. Your defense is basically enough now. What you need to increase now is your offensive method. Your offensive method is too single now. After experiencing such a situation where he could only break the situation from the outside world, Yusuke felt that he had actually let go of something in his heart. Let go of your arrogance. Previously, Yusuke believed that he had a deep understanding of this world as a real world. But now it seems that I didn't really understand this sentence. Before, my understanding of this sentence was limited to the analysis of conspiracy theories I had read before. And with this, he is sure that many things that will happen in the future will still happen if he does not have himself. For example, the stain on 3rd generation that cannot be washed away is the attitude towards Naruto. But now, Yusuke has an extra layer of understanding. I always thought that the third generation project was too stupid before, but now this incident has undoubtedly given Yusuke a wake-up call. That is, it is not unreasonable for third generation to operate in this position for so many years. In this game of third generation, if I hadn't found Orochimaru and discussed with Orochimaru a point like Nawaki that broke the game, then I would have had no choice but to hold my nose and enter the game of third generation. Of course, it is impossible to just let this matter go. The planned third generation project, the unexpected Danzo, and when they return to the village, if they don't give these two people something fierce, Yusuke feels that this matter will not be over. Last time, it was tax-free for 3 years. This time, it's not just a small amount of money. How can you do it without paying some meat? I have arranged some training plans for you. You can just practice according to this plan now. With that said, Yusuke put a piece of paper in Nawaki's hand. Come on, practice hard. After patting Nawaki on the shoulder, Yusuke left directly. After Yusuke left, Nawaki looked at the paper in his hand, but the content on the paper made Nawaki scratch his head. Fluken sword fighting technique. Molten iron flow prison. Flame roaring lion bite. Practice is pretty good. After using the spear in his hand to neutralize the flaming fist hit by Nawaki and the other punch hidden in his fist, Yusuke stopped his hand and praised Nawaki. Yusuke has long been numb from losing. Apart from training every day, he is sparring with his dear brother-in-law. After practicing sparring for so long and never winning once, how can you not feel numb? I'll give you a day off today and have a good rest. Yes, Nawaki's originally slightly depressed face suddenly brightened up. It is in sharp contrast to the rainy weather all year round in Rain Shinobi. Although this place is in the wild, it's not like the two places where Nawaki stays the longest now. It is not as restrained as in Konoha village, nor is it like the Sand Shinobi frontline, where there is only endless yellow sand and strong wind. Nawaki had already gone fishing in the literal sense. After all, there were quite a lot of rivers around here. Go go. Yusuke patted Nawaki on the shoulder, and Nawaki left happily. As soon as Nawaki left, Jiraiya came over again. Yusuke, how powerful are you now? Jiraiya watched the sparring between Nawaki and Yusuke just now. The sparring between the two made Jiraiya's blood boil with excitement. If I hit you 100 times, there shouldn't be any problem. Real or fake? Then let's hit 50. This act of directly cutting in half made Jiraiya successfully think that Yusuke's initial 100 was just to tease him, so he patted Yusuke on the shoulder and replied to Yusuke. The two of them started chatting casually as they walked towards the hut. When do you plan to return to Konoha? Yusuke gave Chishang a holiday, which meant that Yusuke was most likely going to leave. Tomorrow. Nawaki is almost done practicing now, and it's time to return to Konoha. And you? Jiraiya asked himself. Yusuke also asked casually. Didn't I say it before? Wait until the three of Yahiko and the others are able to protect themselves in this troubled world. Will you return to Konoha by then? But Jiraiya shook his head. I don't plan to go back for the time being. After I finish teaching them, I want to go directly to Mount Myoboku to practice celestial arts. Then whether you can still catch up with me in Tsunade's wedding is another matter. You really know how to open and lift certain pots. Jiraiya laughed and cursed and punched Yusuke. If you want me, why don't you go to some custom shop to collect materials now? I think if you write that type of novel, many people will definitely like it, and it will definitely sell well. Jiraiya, am that kind of person. I think so. I also said that you are the most third-generation person. I will never look like that old man. The two of them were like children who had not yet graduated from ninja school, chasing each other and fighting. Jiraiya, I'm a gentleman. You are a gentleman and a hammer. During the chase, the two people did not forget to shout to each other. You must be thinking in your heart, but you just don't dare to say it. As soon as Yusuke finished saying this, he felt Jiraiya's head grow even higher. Look, you've been fooled by what I said, you're so anxious. I just got it right, why are you so anxious? After chasing for a while, the two finally stopped under a tree and sat back to back together. If I really can't make it, then I'll give you my best wishes now. Where's the blessing? Jiraiya rolled his eyes and began to speak stiffly. A happy marriage will last 100 years, and a precious son will be born soon. Where's the money? I'll make up for this later. That's okay. What? You are leaving during the day tomorrow? During dinner, when Yahiko heard the news that Yusuke was leaving, he immediately slammed the table and asked excitedly. Regarding Yusuke's feelings, Yahiko and others have always been a bit vague. Among the 4 Yusukes at that time, Jiraiya chose to stay and teach them, so they spent the longest time with Jiraiya and had the deepest relationship. If Yahiko had to describe this relationship, Jiraiya is like the father of the 3 of them, and Yusuke, Tsunade, and Orochimaru are like the uncles and aunts next door. But now that Yusuke is leaving, Yahiko feels empty in her heart. Now it is the uncle and aunt next door who are leaving with their best friends, the people they are most familiar with, as they move. There are things waiting for us to do in Konoha. Okay, I said I would give you a gift before you leave. This is the book Tsunade asked me to bring to Konan. There are some training books and some stories. The reading order of professional books has also been written by Tsunade for you. As for you two, Tsunade asked me to bring you a set of training weights. Place a stack of books and 2 sets of weights in front of the 3 of them. Tsunade's has been given away, and mine will be next. This book is called Wine and Poetry in Dark Alleys. You can experience it yourself slowly. Tsunade and I are the same, and you too have the same things. 2 watches. 2 watches with red string and white string as decorations. The sands of time are connected by memories, the time of morning dew. These 2 things also have special abilities. You too should experience them well. Thanks. The 3 little ones solemnly thanked him, and Yusuke also gave his instructions. After all, after I leave this time, I may not have time to come here again in a short time. Use them well, do what you want to do the right thing. After touching the heads of the 3 people, Yusuke also had a faint smile on his face. After the gift-giving session, it was time for the 6 little ones to cherish each other. Although these 6 people can't even spend a week together, the bond has already connected the 6 children together. Jiraiya and Yusuke watched for a while, then waited until the food was about to get cold, and then started to greet a few people to eat. Eat. After tonight, you won't be able to eat the food I cooked for a while. Early the next morning, Yusuke took Kushina and the 3 of them away directly. Of course Jiraiya and his 3 children also came to see him off. Teacher, do you think we will meet them again in the future? Yahiko stood next to Jiraiya and asked Jiraiya. Jiraiya looked at the road where there were no more people, and before turning around, he gave his answer lightly. If you want, that's fine. On the other side, Yusuke and the others were walking quietly, but Kushina suddenly asked Yusuke. Brother, do you think we and Konan can meet again in the future? If you want, that's fine. Really, real. When I went back to Konoha last time, I found a lot of this fruit on the way. It tastes pretty good. Yusuke picked a fruit from the tree and placed it in Kushina's hand beside him. How about it? After seeing Kushina eating it, Yusuke took the initiative to ask Kushina. Tasty. Do you guys want to have a taste? Okay. Minato and Fugaku smiled and responded, but if you look closely at their faces, you can see that their expressions are actually a bit far-fetched. Although the task has been completed, the process of returning to the village to hand in the task is definitely more casual than the process of carrying out the task. But the current speed, to be honest, it's a bit too slow. Logically speaking, shouldn't Yusuke be the most anxious one? After all, Tsunade is still in Konoha. Minato and Fugaku saw the same confusion in each other's eyes countless times. Even Fugaku was a little more anxious. Yusuke's slowness made Fugaku very anxious. Now Fugaku really wants to convey the news of his safety to his father. But they didn't ask Yusuke directly, not even the stone statue Nawaki. Are we walking too slowly? After eating the fruit, Minato couldn't restrain his doubts and asked Yusuke. I was thinking of treating this trip as an autumn outing. Since you all dislike being slow, how about we go faster? Yusuke put the fruit away and asked Minato. May I? The teacher feels that it is a bit too casual to say it quickly. It turns out that just mentioning it is enough. There's nothing wrong with this. Let's move forward at full speed for the rest of the journey. In fact, Yusuke himself really went out of his way to speed up. Anyway, Nawaki trained faster than he thought, so he had plenty of time to return to Konoha. And slowing down is also to have another thing to do. The reason why you have headphones that speed up the process is actually because what you want to do has been successfully completed, and you have accepted your plan. The interior of Konoha, including the outer circle, in fact, part of the area, is monitored by a device that detects the fluctuations of chakra. When Yusuke instantly killed the root in Sakura Flower Forest, he did not use chakra, but used the elemental power of the Eye of God, and this also successfully deceived the detection device. The average person's shadow clone cannot actually move too far away from the main body. At this time, on the top of the mountain outside Konoha, Yusuke was like a man using a sniper rifle to carry out assassinations. He quietly came to the top of the mountain and started preparations. To measure the distance, imagine the ballistic trajectory. I don't have a sniper rifle, but I have a bow and arrow. What Yusuke wants to do is to use the bow and arrow in his hand to carry out ultra-long distance sniping. In the original game, there were many people who shot an arrow into the sky and then used the teleportation anchor point to teleport near their originally scheduled location. After that, you can see that the arrow you first shot landed at the position you originally planned without losing any power. The only problem is that the bow and arrow you shoot are not affected by wind speed, just like in the game. However, the arrows shot are still greatly affected by gravity. So to implement this operation in the game, you usually shoot an arrow into the sky. Let the arrows use parabolas to make long-distance leaps. To be honest, Yusuke has never played like this even in the game. He has only seen others play like this in other people's videos. Yusuke can now use Ganyu's skills to aim at a similar distance. After all, Ganyu's second stage of charging will explode, causing damage to all enemies in a circular area. But this time, Yusuke planned to have some fun. Linny. 5-star fire archer character. I just got it recently. Linny's attack using a bow and arrow can also be charged to the second stage. This second stage also has its own special effects. Normal attack, forced card casting, 2 stages of charging, launch hidden magic arrows, causing fire element damage, and after hitting, summon a weird laughing cat hat. The weird laughing cat hat can taunt surrounding enemies and attract them to attack. Each enemy can only be taunted by the laughing cat hat once every 5 seconds. When destroyed or the duration expires, a firework projectile will be fired at a nearby enemy, causing fire elemental damage. This effect alone is not very strong. It's just a simple taunting effect, but the frequency of taunting is not high. However, an alternative, gathering of monsters, effect can be achieved, so that the weird laughing cat hat can blow up more people when it explodes. However, when the weird laughing cat hat explodes, it can only cause damage to one enemy once. Of course, Yusuke's purpose cannot be just 1 or 2 people. Smiling cat hat can be used with a skill. Linny's elemental combat skills. Elemental combat skills, dazzling light tricks. This skill can actively detonate the strange laughing cat hat on the field. The detonation effect is not like launching a fireworks bomb at a person. If you actively detonate the weird laughing cat hat yourself, it will cause area damage. And he ordered 2 lives. One person can directly summon 2 weird laughing cat hats with 1 arrow. The effect of the second life is that if he uses Linny for 6 seconds, his critical damage will be increased by 60%. I didn't order it too high, but I was mainly afraid that if I was not careful, the explosion would exceed my expectations. If it hurt ordinary people, I would still be very sad. Yusuke picked up the bow and loaded the arrow, aiming at where he should shoot based on his calculations in advance. After the second stage charge sign appeared, Yusuke decisively let go of his hand. Mom, will there be shooting stars during the day? How can there be shooting stars during the day? The parents scolded the children, but they still looked up to the sky subconsciously. It seems like there are really shooting stars. Roots. What is this? The 3rd generation project that came to the route to find Danzo, and Danzo who came out to meet the 3rd generation project, looked at the 2 hats that suddenly appeared upside down with a cat behind them after the rocket fell, and they all showed doubts in their eyes. Is this a little surprise for me, Danzo? I didn't expect you to be so good. That's right. Yusuke's target is Danzo's roots. Blow up the Hokage building. There are quite a few innocent people in the Hokage building. But I don't have any psychological burden at all when I blow up your base. Yusuke made a gesture of taking off his hat, put the hat in his right hand, and made an exit gesture with a smirk. Yusuke's shadow clone did not turn into smoke this time, but turned directly into playing cards, fell to the ground and disappeared. Boom! Flames soaring into the sky and huge roars came from the base of the base. And Yusuke, who did all this, left early. Finally back to the village. Why is the security check so strict? Although Minato and the other children searched quickly, they did so completely. As an adult, Yusuke is extremely strict in checking. Is something going on in the village? I feel the atmosphere is a bit depressing. Minato was the first to enter the village after being inspected, and soon discovered something was wrong. And Yusuke's heart was also full of doubts. Didn't I just blow up the roots? As for this, at the root is a hidden mechanism that is deeper than Anbu. Even if the headquarters is bombed, as long as it doesn't explode and the roots are bombed, where many people in the village gather, there won't be such a depressing atmosphere, right? The atmosphere was depressing, but Fula still knew what he should do first. Since he had been away from the village for so long, of course he should go to third generation first to complete the mission. Naoki wanted to report on the situation on the front line, so he followed Fula to the Hokage building. As a result, after knocking on the door of third generation for a long time, there was no response. Finally, when I couldn't help but want to punch him open, the door next to him opened and Fula and others were welcomed in. You come to see the third generation project. I'm here to hand over the mission to Lord Hokage. I'm here to report on the situation on the front line. Third generation is temporarily injured, just give me the mission report. Ah, Yusuke's exclamation was genuine and truly surprised. Third generation is injured. Could it be that someone secretly invaded Konoha and attacked the third generation? This kind of thing is not impossible, otherwise it would not have happened in the original work. The Cloud Shinobi ninja took Kushina outside of Konoha village openly, as if it was a joke. As for himself, Yusuke has no doubts at all. I didn't even think about doing it, how could it be me? I, Yusuke Mikami, am greatly innocent. The ninja who guided Yusuke and others to this room observed Yusuke's expression at this time. However, he didn't see the slightest problem. Why does third generation want me to observe Yusuke Mikami? Is there something wrong with Yusuke Mikami? But is this expression really a problematic expression? I don't know where people came from a while ago. They attacked Elder Danzo and the third generation. Now both of them are seriously injured. After observing Yusuke for a while, the ninja took the initiative to explain to Fula. Yusuke woke up with a start. Listen to this ninja say this. It seems like you really did this yourself. And Yusuke also discovered that the ninja in front of him had been recording his expression. Fortunately, he was really confused at the beginning, which gave him a lot of reaction time. Just do it according to the expression just now. Is there anyone who dares to be so bold as to attack the third generation and Elder Danzo? This is strange. Both of them insisted that it was two hats with cats sitting on them that exploded. Who would make a bomb like that? The ninja's doubts about Yusuke were slightly reduced. Seeing that Yusuke took the initiative to ask, he began to explain the recent incident to Yusuke. An ordinary explosion, even if it explodes suddenly, won't directly injure these two, right? Seeing this, Fula also began to pretend to follow the train of thought of the ninja in front of him and continue his analysis. What you said makes sense. Are there no explosive residues at the scene? Not at all. You think, is it possible that Iwagakure did it? I heard that they have something called detonating clay. And you see, Iwagakure is still fighting with our people on the front line of Rain Country. He has every reason to do so. When you say so, it is indeed possible. Seeing that the ninja still agreed with it, Yusuke said silently in his heart, I'm sorry, Deidara. At worst, I will teach you the bouncing bombs and booming sparks myself in the future. At the same time, there are some other thoughts in my mind, such as, if I was using Ganyu's second level charge at that time, could it be that Kurigakure was the one who was suspected? After all, Kurigakure only has the blood inheritance limit of ice release. Of course, we didn't talk about this all the time. There were also some inquiries from the ninja about Yusuke's mission report. For example, why have you been gone so long? Well, I'm ashamed to say that after we completed our mission, we were besieged by a large number of ninjas. Although I have made a name for myself on the Rain Shinobi front line, my name is also due to my strong perception ability. But these people, as if they knew that I had strong sensory abilities, they immediately shrank from a large circle into a circular circle, and immediately surrounded the four of us. Then how did you solve it in the end? In the end, my dear brother-in-law suddenly appeared on the battlefield and saved the four of us. Otherwise, even if we completed the mission, we would not be able to return to Konoha. The ninja was fascinated. Yusuke nodded in agreement until the end. It wasn't until I was about to write this down that I realized something was wrong. Then this doesn't seem to explain why you came back so late. Oh, you are talking about this. This is because I went to see Jiraiya. I remember that before I left, I seem to have told the third generation about this. Ouch, that's it. The ninja took note of what Yusuke said and asked Minato and others a few more questions. Yusuke's affairs were considered finished. What Naoki wanted to report was a frontline matter and was classified as confidential, so Yusuke and the entire 7th team were pushed out. Just as he was about to find a place to wait for Naoki, a voice calling his name made Yusuke's head explode. Yusuke, my wife came to see me, so I'll leave first. You can each go back to your own home. Just divide the mission reward among you. When Minato and the other three reacted, they saw Tsunade, who was being pulled away by Yusuke and almost flying. After the three little ones finished dividing the rewards, Fugaku also took the initiative to say goodbye. Then I'm going home too. I want to report that I'm safe. After saying that, Fugaku left directly, even as fast as Yusuke. Tell me, will he go to his father or Makoto first? Kushina looked at Fugaku's back and asked Minato, who was standing aside. His father, right, let's make a bet. I bet it's Makoto. The answer will be revealed the next time I see him. How about the loser promising the winner something? Sure, Minato responded with a smile. That will happen later. How about the two of us going to eat barbecue now? I haven't eaten in a long time. Let's go. After a while, Naoki walked out of the house and looked at the empty corridor where no one was waiting for him. Suddenly I felt a chill in my heart. What's all this? After Yusuke and Tsunade returned home, they didn't do anything shy immediately. Tsunade also noticed Yusuke's fatigue, so he pulled Yusuke and started massaging Yusuke. While enjoying the massage from his fiancé, Yusuke finally had some free time. After chatting with each other for a while, he began to ask Tsunade about recent events in Konoha. What's going on with them in third generation? Tsunade is the best doctor in Konoha now. If something like this happens to the third generation and Danzo, the last person to look at is Tsunade. Even if they and Tsunade don't deal with each other, this kind of thing will not happen to others. Even Tsunade himself didn't want to do this. Third generation's eye injury is relatively minor. It seems that he used ninjutsu to block part of the explosion. Danzo is not good. He was injured a bit seriously. It seems that he was closest to the center of the explosion. To be honest, not only is the third generation project an unexpected surprise, but Danzo also has a bit of this meaning. After all, no matter what Yusuke thought, he never expected that he would be able to ejaculate the Hat Cat right in front of the two of them. There was no way he could ejaculate indoors. In the final analysis, it can only be said that the right time, right place and right people cooperated. And it works well together. Compared with the casualties, the economic losses of Roots were actually greater. The above-ground part of the entire Roots base was razed to the ground, and even the experimental base in the underground part seemed to be affected. The personnel losses are not small. Although they are not directly killed, a considerable number of them will probably not be able to become ninjas in the future. Combined with what Yusuke has done before, such as the Uzumaki Country incident and the Rain Shinobi Frontline Ice Wolf incident, Tsunade feels that this time, it is also possible that Yusuke did it. But whether Yusuke did it or not is not that important to Tsunade now. After hearing Tsunade's words, Yusuke couldn't hold himself tight and wanted to laugh out loud. But in the end, I still held it back, and in the end I just said, that's really tragic. It just so happens that the Chunin exam is about to start. By then, Kushina and the others won't be pestering me every day. Although they haven't completely disappeared, Hanzo won't be causing trouble for a long time. I guess I can take a good rest. Tsunade suddenly showed a very good wife smile and said to Yusuke, you don't look like a person who can take time off. Are you being a little too diligent? Tsunade thought for a while and gave Yusuke another explanation. Are you sure I'm very diligent? Yusuke himself feels a little guilty. No matter how much he thinks, he can't associate it with the word diligence, right? I still have this thing of self-knowledge. You just haven't discovered where you are working hard. Although you always behave a little lazy, your brain is very hard-working. Tsunade said as he moved his hand from Yusuke's shoulder to his head. What are your plans next? Live my world of too well. Tsunade exerted force on his hand and threatened Yusuke, stop messing around and talk about business. If we get down to business, we can probably prepare to build momentum for Orochimaru. Taking advantage of Danzo's current period of weakness, we can let Orochimaru develop a little. Why not just take this opportunity and let Orochimaru step onto this stage? No matter what I say about third generation, I am still your teacher. Orochimaru probably wants to give him a reasonable ending. In fact, in the original Chunin exam chapter, Orochimaru killed the third generation project in order to give the third generation project a grand exit. Rather than dying of old age naturally. As long as the third generation project does something bad in the future, let the third generation project remove Hokage's position. Lest you do a lot of wrong things in the future and completely ruin your reputation. Other than that, after a brief pause, Yusuke continued, next, I plan to improve my strength. You are now strong enough to beat my grandfather, right? Yusuke really thought about this problem seriously. The strongest battle of first generation was probably the battle against Uchiha Madara during the Battle of the Valley of the End. The most important method is magic plus wood style. If the first generation project at that time matched me, After thinking carefully for a while, Yusuke gave his answer. It should be a little bit worse. If one's Zhongli reaches full life, that is, reaches level 6, then one's strength will directly surpass the first generation item. But now he can't cross the threshold of Zhongli's 6 lives. Then come on, I feel like I can't catch up with you anymore. If you want to, then it must be possible. Yusuke didn't lie either. The issue of lifespan is still a very important issue. After obtaining the Eye of God, Yusuke has discovered some problems in this area, but he cannot rush about this problem because it is useless to rush. I have an idea, but it still takes time to complete it. As for improving strength, it still has something to do with Linny. When using Linny, Yusuke had new ideas for improving himself. Yin escape, and Yang escape. This time, the root bombing was the first time Yusuke used Linny. During the use, he discovered some points that he had not noticed before. That was Linny. In the process of using skills, he would bring up a new energy from time to time that did not belong to the 7 elements. After using Linny, Yusuke discovered this special energy during careful inspection. Shijili. Linny's primordial power is Mangxing. In addition, there is a character named Lynette who also has primordial power. Her primordial power is wild. Mangwang. This kind of thing with corresponding properties reminded Yusuke of a setting that he had almost forgotten. That's right, it's Yin-Yang escape. Yusuke plans to start researching Yin-Yang escape starting from Manghuang Shijili. In addition, Yusuke also plans to study Senjutsu. But it's not the magic of the ninja world. Yusuke plans to use some magic of the Genshin. If we talk about the previous elements, they are somewhat basic, but what I am going to explore now is the advanced content of the ninja world. Let's use Genshin Impact's system to benchmark against the system of the ninja world. Manghuang's attributes are against Yin-Yang escape, and Immortal Technique is against Immortal Technique. A bit challenging, but the better thing is that he has enough time to cultivate, and Yusuke still has time to complete this matter. Okay, at this time, don't think so much. Tsunade's massage and calls gradually brought Yusuke's thoughts back. Okay, I got it. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.